What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise live here on a Monday. I am back after a week off. I was trying to remember everything to go live as it wasn't muscle memory for me anymore. Eric, this is the longest time I've taken off from streaming in a while, but I'm glad to be back. Glad to talk some more Blazers offseason as we have only 2 streams until the draft lottery. We got 3 because today, Thursday, next Monday, the next Tuesday, we'll have our draft lottery live stream. So check out the main channel for that. Anyway, Blazers Uprise Live is presented by BetOnline. Use the promo code BELIEVE for a 50% reward bonus. That's BLEAV for 50% rewards. You can get in on the crazy second round action that is ongoing. You have the Heat up 3-1. You have the Lakers up against the Warriors 3-1. You have the Nuggets and the Suns tied at 2 apiece, and you got the Celtics and Sixers tied at 2 apiece. That Celtics-Sixers series is a lot of Blazer fans are keeping their eye on that one for a couple of big-time names that I talked about in my trade targets video I dropped recently on the main channel. But you can get in on that action with that promo code BELIEVE for a 50% reward bonus, live betting parlays, all that fun stuff. Anyway, Eric, how's it going? It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's kind of not that I want the Warriors or Knicks to win the series necessarily, but I was hoping that all the series would be 2-2 after tonight. Didn't quite happen. Now there's 2-3-1 series and 2-2-2. But yeah, other than that, it's going pretty good.
Yeah, been an interesting playoff so far, and it'll be interesting to see who the Lakers will end up facing, because it's looking like the Warriors are out. Now, of course, they've come back from a 3-1 deficit before, so maybe I'm trying to jinx them. But honestly, it's going to be nice to see one of those 2 teams lose. It's going to suck to see one of those 2 teams win. Obviously, those are the 2 most hated teams for a lot of Blazer fans, but then on the other side of things, Nuggets Suns been a thrilling series so far. I want that series to go to 7 games. A game 7 in Denver would be phenomenal. Anyway, what do we got on tap for today other than just trade talk and draft talk and questions and just hanging out? Is there anything else?
I mean, we'll do our usual Tankathon and all that stuff, but nothing too serious. Talk about Giannis on following everyone.
Yeah. I don't know. I saw somebody say this is a normal thing, happens every year. Yeah. I don't really know, and I'm the type of guy to not read too much into the, players I'm following, certain players or whatever, but I've been on board the Giannis is a greater than 0% chance train, okay, which isn't really much of a statement, but I've been on board of that being a distant possibility, and hopefully it becomes closer and closer. Hopefully that possibility becomes less distant, because I would love to see Giannis in a Blazer uniform, or there even be a chance for the Blazers getting Giannis, because then that's awesome content. And it's fun to talk about. It's fun to sit here and dream. We're in that period, Eric, where we're just sitting here and dreaming, and soon reality is going to hit us in the face. Maybe it's a good slap, maybe it's a bad slap, I don't know, but soon reality is going to hit us. In 8 days, reality is going to hit us, because that's going to be the draft lottery. And that's when reality starts to happen. We're dreaming until then.
Yeah, man. Could have big dreams in 8 days, or could have our dreams dashed, right?
Yep. So we'll see how it goes, man. I'm nervous. I'm about to start making the graphics for that stream. And I kind of just want the draft lottery to be over with. I haven't thought about it as much as I thought about last year's draft lottery going into that draft lottery live stream. If the Blazers get like 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, I'm not sure that matters too much. I mean, it's a better trade asset if you have 2, so it's easier to make things happen. So it does matter. But outside of the number 1 pick, I mean, it's Wemby or bust in terms of drafting players for this team this offseason, it seems. So, I'm fingers crossed, because Wemby would solve a lot of problems, and that would be fascinating to see that guy in a Blazer uniform. Every time I watch film on him, I somehow end up even higher on him, Eric. I think he could be the best defensive player year 1. I don't think it's likely, but his tools are insane. Just how quick his hands are, how quick off the ground he is, his instincts, his length, his fluidity. Just the combination of all those traits. I mean, nobody matches him in the league. The only thing is, can he recognize what's happening fast enough, and is he strong enough to be able to to defend against big men. Those are the only question marks, but he'll be phenomenal, and it'd be interesting to get him into Portland, obviously, because he's a generational prospect, but also it'd be interesting to see if he could like single-handedly fix this defense, because if anybody's going to do that, it would probably be him.
Someone with his skill set. Yeah, there was a play in his last game where he was sagging off his guy, like he was pretty much below the free throw line, and they just made like a simple cross-court pass, and he was so long he was able to get to it and steal it and go on a fast break and dunk it. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. The tape just jumps out at me every single time, and it seems like there's new ways for him to impress people almost every single time he steps on the floor, just like that put-back dunk he had off his own step-back three-point miss. I mean, the dude does absolutely insane stuff, so fingers crossed as we lead up till the draft lottery. We'll do a Tankathon sim here in a little bit. First off, for those of you participating in our mock off season, we need to decide the time for when we pick teams. Okay? So, some of you in here are in our mock off season. I'm wondering how late I should do it, because it is going to be Sunday, May 14th. But obviously that's Mother's Day. Or if it's not obvious, hopefully I reminded you that it is indeed Mother's Day. So we need to decide what's a good time for doing the team selection show. Right now I have it scheduled for 7 p.m. Pacific time, but I'm willing to do it later if that's what you guys want. So let me know in the chat if you would want to do it later than 7. Let me know if you'd want to do it like 8 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Pacific time, or whatever. I don't think it really matters to me. I don't think it really matters to Eric. We just want to find something that is good for you guys. And if you can't make it, then you can send us your list of teams, and we can get you your team based off of that. So, but yeah, let me know in chat if you are a participant. If you're not a participant, don't troll me, okay? Yeah, we'll see. Aeromancer says I'm going to have to send in a list regardless. Yeah, you guys will be able to send in lists, and we'll be able to do it that way. It's just fun being able to... We actually bring you guys on stream. Like, your voice gets to be on stream. Last year, I was in a Discord voice call and had you guys hop in the Discord to pick your team. So you'll be able to do that again this year. You'll actually be able to be on stream. We'll see how that goes. It went fine last year, and I think we have more mellow of a participant pool than last year. So no Dro in it this year. So I think it should be fine.
Don't throw Dro under the bus like that.
Hey, Dro's just a wild guy, man. I mean that in a good way. I mean that as a compliment.
What do you think? I'm just brainstorming here, so you can tell me it's a bad idea. Just doing it on BUL on Monday night.
VOL?
On Blazers Uprise Live on Monday night.
I don't want to waste a whole Blazers Uprise Live doing it, because it's going to take like 1 to 2 hours, you know? Yeah. And that's the day before the draft lottery, so
True.
I kind of want to maybe do a mock draft, or talk about something, so I'd rather just do it Sunday. But yeah, so right now tentative time is 7 p.m. We'll ask you guys over the next couple of days if there's any change. It would be a little bit later, maybe 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Otherwise, I think we're aiming at 7 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday for team selection shows for our mock off season. If you're not our mock off season and are wondering what the hell we're talking about, we take 30 people, including me, including Eric, and we each run an NBA team. We follow all CBA rules, and we run through a mock off season. We make trades. We have a draft with the picks that are traded. And then we have free agency period. So we just run through an entire mock off season with everybody running a team. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, your mom's in here. Maybe she should decide the time, since it's Mother's Day.
She'll be gone, so.
Oh, you're not spending time with her?
Well, she's going to be at my brother's house, so.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. That's pretty simple. Yeah, I need to talk to mine. And figure out what the plan is. By the way, chat, is any of you still trying to figure out a Mother's Day gift to get for your mom? Let me know in chat if you are, okay? Because I have something for you. You want to just do a Tankathon sim now?
Sure.
Okay, let's just do a Tankathon sim now, and then we'll start talking about trade possibilities off of that, and that can segue us into talking trade talk and all that fun stuff. So we got this right here. All right, so let me make this a little bit bigger. I don't know why it's so much smaller. My computer was tripping out today. All right. There we go. You guys know what the deal is. Let's simulate this thing. Let's scroll up. Let's see if the Blazers get some good luck. At 14 is New Orleans. At 13 is Toronto. Who won the last one? Wasn't it a team way down low? The last one that we did together?
I think we did a couple. One was Chicago, I think. Not winning it, but they moved up. And then Dallas moved up and won. And yeah. And then they moved down and won. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some wild stuff. Last couple of times we ran a Tankathon sim. I think the Blazers didn't move up, though. So hoping for better luck this time. At 12, OKC. At 11 is Orlando via Chicago. At 10 is Dallas. At 9 is Utah. So far, so good. At 8 is Washington. Still so far, so good. At 7 is Indiana. At 6, moment of truth, is the Orlando Magic. Hopefully I simulated the thing and I'm not trolling again. I definitely did, because oh no, they broke ties. At 5 is your Portland Trailblazers. At 4 is Charlotte. At 3 is San Antonio. Did I not sim it, chat? Am I tripping? See, I'm rusty. Take a week off and this is what happens. Okay, I'm simulating again. It could have just been like straight chalk, but who knows? I definitely think I hit the thing. At 14 is New Orleans. At 13 is Toronto. You guys already know the order. I'm just going to scroll until we get to a team that changes. At 9 is Washington, so Utah moves up. Freaking Microsoft Edge loves Utah. At 8 is Indiana. At 7 is your Portland freaking Trailblazers. So Orlando moves up as well. At 6 is Charlotte. At 5 is Houston. So Detroit and San Antonio, Utah, and Orlando. At 4 is Utah. At 3 is Orlando. At 2 is Detroit. And at 1 is San Antonio. Just kind of gross. Did you do a sim on Thursday? I assume you did.
Yeah.
How'd that one go?
I don't remember.
Oh, that means it wasn't eventful. So that means I'm not bad luck, hopefully.
People are saying both Rahi and Aeromancer went back. You did actually sim the first time.
I did.
It just
I thought I did. Has anybody in chat, have you guys ever like simulated it? And obviously I do the whole scroll thing, but have you simulated it and watched it be straight chalk like that? Because I guess that was just a straight chalk.
It's such a minute chance of that happening. It's weird.
I know.
It's like us getting 9.
Yeah. Or like us having the 11th or 12th best odds or whatever it was and being first try in our first sim of the season.
It's we got 7 and 2, people are saying on last stream.
7 and 2, okay. Well, let's do one more. Let's just get us into the top 4 and then let's talk about certain trades. Okay, 3, Eric. Any ideas come to mind since you're the trade czar?
Well, I still think it has a lot to be determined with how these series go. Obviously, the third pick would be a lot more valuable in a Jalen Brown trade or whoever becomes available. So that's something I'd look at. Let's see. Does Charlotte have any other picks in the first round? Do they just have one?
They have 6, and they have 27.
6 and 27.
27's a bit low for a trade down.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like maybe you get those two in a future first or something. I was just trying to look at a way to accrue assets if multiple picks and stuff. But yeah, maybe Detroit wants to move up.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's one guy as a trade down possibility that we haven't discussed all offseason, but like I could see Cronin just coming out of left field with it.
Bradley Beal.
Well, you're thinking of the right team, but the wrong player.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, Porzingis.
Yeah. Well, he's got an opt out. I don't know if he's going to opt out.
Do you think he opts out, though?
I don't know. They're talking about signing to a long-term deal.
Yeah.
So if he opts out, it'll complicate things.
Yeah. I mean, if he opts in, I didn't realize he had an opt out, so that's good to know. But if he opts in, I could see that being because a lot of stuff just kind of. I mean, I guess this past deadline didn't come out of left field, but I just feel like Cronin comes out of left field, and like that would be the thing is like we're gonna get a guy who's been an all-star, and we still have the 8th pick where we can draft a young guy. It's like getting Grant and Sharp, Instead we get Porzingis and whoever we draft at 8.
Well, we still have to match his salary, which sucks, and
yeah, it'd be like Nurkic and Little and
I don't know.
Knox.
I don't know if I'm not sure if Washington does that. That's weird.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I'm not sure what Washington does in general because I'm not sure what they're doing in general. Mm-hmm. They just make no sense. Would you have... I mean, it doesn't make sense for this team, so I think I already know the answer, but would you have any interest in Lauri Markkanen if Utah really wanted to move up into like the top 2 or 3 and the Blazers had a pick there?
I mean, I definitely have interest in him, but fortunately, it's not. I don't think he's a good enough defender to help fix what we need. So,
yeah,
I'm out pretty much on any player who doesn't help at least contribute to the solution on defense.
Yeah, I mean, with Sacramento being as competitive as they were against Golden State, and I mean Golden State's just not as good this year as they were last year. I mean, look at what the Lakers are doing to them right now. But Golden State has, almost made it 2-2 tonight if it wasn't for Lonnie Walker, the 4th going off in the 4th quarter, living up to his last name. But Sacramento's like 1st on offense, 25th on defense. I mean, if that type of defender wasn't available and they still wanted to get better, would it be that bad of an idea to just say, you know what, screw it, let's just try and have the best offense in the league, and then our defense is still going to be bad, but hopefully it can be like 22nd?
I don't think it's like a bad thinking, but I don't think we'd even be as high as 22nd, so... And the Kings did lose in the first round, so I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know. Markkanen and Grant seems like a clunky fit.
On offense or on defense?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Markkanen could work there. I feel like I mean, obviously it depends on what we give up for Markkanen, and I think we could get him without trading Simons. I'm not sure, because he's making, what, like 18 mil? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's like 16, 17 mil next year, and then I think...
Oh, he is making 17 mil.
He's got a...
Why did I doubt myself?
And then he's got a partially guaranteed the next year, I think.
Yeah, so like Little plus Knox plus Keon plus like a minimum. If you're trading like 4... as well, like I could see that being a Cronin out of left field trade as well. That doesn't really help us at all on the defensive end. Like we're probably a bottom 3 defense. But yeah, I'm not a fan of like power forwards that aren't good on ball defenders as fits. Mm-hmm. I've loved Siakam for the longest time. If you follow the channel, you'll know that. I'm not even that great of... I'm not a big fan of acquiring him with Jeremy Grant on this roster. Because he's just not a good on-ball defender. Like, who's going to be your point of attack stopper? Who's going to be the guy that guards stars? Now, if you have Siakam and Grant and Nurkic, maybe you can get away with like that being Dame and Ant, and you just funnel everything towards those three, and maybe that could be better defensively than what we saw this past year, but I'm not sure, So if you're going to spend a bunch of assets on a guy like a Siakam or maybe a Markkanen if Utah really wants to move into the top three and we get a pick there, like, the fact that it doesn't help your defense, is that worth giving up assets for? Just for another offensive piece? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think maybe it would be more like if that was the trade, like Markkanen go into a third team.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's how we get to Jalen Brown or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, you try and flip them. I mean, the thing is if any team comes calling with a high-caliber player like that, if you're Portland, you don't just hang up because he's not a good fit. You try and pivot it if it's not a good fit. You try and pivot a player like Markkanen. If Jalen Brown is disgruntled and doesn't really want to be in Boston, maybe you can flip him, and maybe you have to trade another asset or two in order to get Jalen Brown. That's what good GMs do. But that's the thing, is there's a bunch of different potential avenues to trades. The simplest way to put it is it's just certain guys have to become available one way or another, asking out or a team wanting to rebuild or whatever.
Blazer fan asked, couldn't the Blazers have gotten Markkanen from Cleveland? No, they actually tried to get Markkanen before settling for Larry Nance, but Cleveland wanted Markkanen, and so they got him. It was a sign and trade, so it would have hard capped us, and I don't think the Blazers wanted to do that.
Yep.
So you're wrong, Aeromaster.
Yeah, I see a lot of people act like we could have just given up the same assets that we did for Larry Nance Jr. for Lauri Markkanen, and when you look at the trade, like, yes, it's kind of structured that way, but there's additional stuff that went into that trade that made it happen the way it did. Do you have any new thoughts on the trade front? It's been a week for me since we've streamed, so it's like everything is kind of new again, or it feels like it's been a while.
I mean, I talked about it a lot on Thursday. There's not really a lot new until this playoff series is over.
Yeah,
but now,
unfortunately, I couldn't listen on Thursday.
Now that Draymond is on the brink of elimination, his name's going to come up a ton this summer. Already has been with a lot of people on Twitter. But I'd like to just ask all those people to quit posting that Draymond's coming now because they're losing without explaining how we're getting Draymond.
Yeah, because he's most likely opting into this $27.5 million. So how are you going to match that, chat, for all you Draymond lovers? How are you getting there? You're going to have to trade out approximately $22 million. So how are you getting to that $22 million of salary? Are you trading Nurkic? I feel like the answer for a lot of people, Eric, is going to be to trade Nurkic, but would it be okay to start Green at the 5?
I mean, it might be okay, but the thing is, I don't see the Warriors doing that, so it's kind of a moot point.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the assets they get back, and it could be something where they flip the contract, just like we were saying for Markkanen or whoever, so.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, I think the only way we get Draymond is if he actually opts out and signs for less, but I still think he'd go to LA over Portland in that case.
The team that beats him.
Yeah.
Shout out to Braden Tennis. My bad. Shout out to Braden Tennis with the $2 dono. Says, y'all more anxious or excited for the offseason? I'll let you go first.
Right now, I am excited because we still have the possibility of Wemby. If we get Wemby, I am going to be on cloud 9 the rest of the offseason, because whether we keep him or I'm assuming if we trade him, it would only be for like Giannis or something like that.
Hopefully.
So to me, that means we either have Wemby or Giannis, pretty much. So that makes me excited. Yeah, so I'll be a nervous wreck for the next 8 days, waiting to see, but definitely could be excited or bummed, and just I don't know. As far as trades go, I'm just kind of taking a I'll believe it when I see it approach, and I don't really know how to get excited about it when we know Cronin's in charge and we know we're kind of limited on the players we have to trade out and stuff like that to match salary. So it's actually kind of bumming me just thinking about some of these trades and how much we're going to get worked over for some of these players.
Yeah, I mean, I'm slightly worried about that. I'm slightly anxious about that. Excited. I don't know if I'd say excited because there's nothing like I expect to be excited about. There's certainly good possibilities that could be awesome, but they're just possibilities at best, probably distant possibilities in themselves. So it's hard to get too excited. Honestly, it doesn't even feel like the draft lottery's next week. Like, the dates kind of snuck up on me. I took the vacation, got the good old Mariners hat. I saw Reese compliment it earlier, which if I get Reese's stamp of approval on a hat, then that means it was a good purchase. So shout out to Reese. But I don't know. I've just been focused on so many different things that it doesn't even feel like the off season's about to start with this draft lottery. So we'll see. We'll see how I feel on Tuesday. Okay, I will be probably a nervous wreck by then.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's crazy. 8 days.
I'll do a chat poll. Nervous or anxious? What's the difference?
It was excited or anxious.
Excited. Whoops.
Gosh.
Whoops. Okay.
One person voted for nervous.
Shout out to the person that got your vote off. Okay, there you go. Excited or anxious? There you go. Logan Caddy says, just came back from the future. We got Wemby. Okay, Logan, if we don't, then I'm going to blame you for messing up the timeline. Okay.
Ugh. Multiverse, man. You just screwed it up.
Yep. So.
Can I go on a side tangent right now?
Go ahead.
I think a new trend that has happened over the last couple months is the most cringe thing in a long time. And I'm getting, I just immediately discredit you if you say this. I'm sorry. I know, because a lot of people are going to say they do this, or I know a lot of people watching do this, but the whole script thing is just, I just Gary Payton throw up in my mouth every time I read it now. It's just it's so stupid. Everyone thinks they're hilarious, but it's the same joke just freaking on repeat 24/7, and it's not even funny anymore. It was maybe funny for a few days, and yeah.
I mean, nobody on Twitter actually has their own jokes,
It's true.
But yeah, that's funny. Mac Mall says script thing ? So he needs you to elaborate on it.
Well, there was something that came out about the NFL having a script or something.
Yeah, and it was obviously trolling.
Yeah. It was. Well, what happened was there was a former NFL player, and right before he said this, they both said, he was on some podcast, and the host and him said, I bet you we can tell everyone we're going to make something up, but people will only clip the part out of you making it up, and then it'll catch on. So they gave a disclaimer, this is not true, we're just going to say it. So Arian Foster says that the NBA the NFL, he was a football player, gave him a script what was going to happen that season or one of the seasons, and that they had to follow it, and he was going to miss some games after the fourth week or something like that. And then, of course, only that part gets clipped, and then everyone's like, "See, it's scripted," and then now they've pushed that off to the NBA being scripted as well, and it's just,
Chat's saying you're only saying this because you're getting paid by
I'm
script
part
writers.
of the script, yeah.
Yeah, you're part of the script. I mean, forget the fact that like our scripting goes as far as, Eric, what topics should we discuss today? And today it was Warriors on brink of elimination? I don't know. And then I just did draft and trade because I knew people would click on it. That is the extent of our scripting. So, do you guys think, okay, honest opinion, like, what percentage of my videos do you think I script? I'm curious because I've had a couple people ask recently, and I'm wondering what percentage do you think I script videos? By the way, 51% of people are excited, 49% are anxious. So we're pretty divided. 0%, I'm insulted. But that it's more than 0. I'll say that. 22%, I'm even more insulted now. Because that's the bad number. Yeah, like 1 or 2 videos a year I'll script. that's the answer. So almost 0%, but greater than 0%. Probably the same percentage as the Blazers' chances of getting Giannis. All right, so, but yeah, I was surprised a couple people asked because I thought it was pretty obvious. So I was just curious. Pasty Zach says Tori's reading off a prompter right now. Yes, it says a bunch on my prompter. And yeah. Anyway, we'll take questions, I guess. We have legitimately no script or plan for this stream, in case you can't tell. Or maybe that's what we want you to think.
How are we AI generated when we were doing this before the AI thing came out? Quincy Brew.
We were ahead of our time. George says, guys, Cat and Brooks are coming. Okay, Eric. Cats, there's been a lot of talk about Cat, so I threw him in the thumbnail, okay? What are your thoughts on potential Cat trades, especially the proposed trade from, I think it was Bleacher Report and the Rip City Project reposted it, because they're on some whole, like, thing where they're trying to piss off the Blazer fan base. But what did you think of the trade idea of Simons, Sharp, and 5 future firsts for Karl-Anthony Towns? What do you think of Cat? In a more serious note, what do you think of Cat as a trade target?
I'll once again bring up the Gary Payton puke in my mouth from tonight. Yeah, I'm probably throwing up live on stream if that happens. If we're on
all in. Yeah. Is there any package where any realistic package that you would consider for Cat?
No, because of his contract, it would cost players that I would not trade straight up for him. So I'm not trading Anfernee straight up for Cat, and he'd have to pretty much be included, or it would have to be like Sharp and Nurk or whatever, and a bunch of other players, and I'm not doing that either.
Yeah, Cat is a good player on a team that fits him perfectly. The problem is if he's not the best player on the team, like, you have to have two-way stars. You know, with our roster, like, defense being a problem, Cat is only going to make it worse, if anything, especially if you're trading Nurkic for him. Like, there's people out there I know that would love to trade Nurk and, like, Little and then other small filler salary and picks for Cat. And they'll justify it by saying, oh, well, Nurkic sucks. Okay, that's part of it that people will say. But then the other part of it is, Cat's an all-star. How could you not want an all-star? He'd be the best player Dame's ever played next to, blah, 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 blah. And they just will completely disregard fit. That's the conversation around Cat, basically, in this fan base. And if you're trading Nurkic for Cat, you're downgrading defensively. We're talking about a defense that was bottom 5. So downgrading defensively means you're probably last. You're probably last. Like, that's not good. Sure, you might be a little better offensively, but it doesn't fix your problems. It's not that like Cat's a better rebounder, and it's not that Cat's a better defensive player. Those were the two biggest problems with this team last year. So if you're going to trade assets to not fix your two biggest problems, how does that make any sense? It's as simple as I can put it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're doing your Lauri Markkanen go all in on offense, then maybe. But yeah, I mean, there's two things with Cat. One, I still don't believe in him. What's the right word? I don't think he's a winning player. I mean, I think he's good, but I don't think he's like has that in him to be a dominant winning player.
Yeah.
Like in the playoffs or whatever. Yeah. And then the other thing is we need a big man who is good at defense. I don't really. I'm just scared that we would do something like that. It's like because nothing else is working.
Like, I'd rather go after Markkanen, because that's the thing. Is
Right.
Markkanen, you could keep Ant and Sharp and maybe just trade the Lotto pick and then, like, Nas, Knox, Keon, minimum contract, right? And it's like, okay, well, you didn't fix your defense. How good of a rebounder is Markkanen? Let me pull up his stats.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw it today, but he was on a pod with Paul George, and someone asked them if they would ever talk about teaming up or something, and they kind of looked at each other like they had talked about it or whatever.
Who? Paul George and Laurie?
No, and Cat.
And Cat.
So Cat would be, I think people are mentioning Nets in chat, which is also a good fit for him, assuming they don't give up all their wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Nets and the Clippers, I think in particular, would be good fits for a center who doesn't play defense, because they have those two-way players at the wing that can cover for that. But outside of that, I don't really think there's a lot of good fits for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I'd rather have Markkanen than him, and I don't want to give up assets for Markkanen. But if you had those two on the table, like, at least Markkanen, he got almost 9 rebounds per game. Like, your rebounding, I don't think it gets better, but I don't think it really gets worse. Your defense, I don't think it gets better. I don't think it gets worse. It just stays pretty dang bad. And you fill one of the starting spots. So that's better than downgrading the rebounding, because I think Nurkic is a better rebounder than Cat. Downgrading the defense and not filling that 5th starter spot, all while giving up assets. Any trades along those lines just makes no sense, because that's the key 3 things for the Blazers: improve defense, improve rebounding, fill that 5th starter spot. Okay. Now, obviously, they need to upgrade talent and whatever. It doesn't just come down to those 3 specific things, but that's the 3 keys that should govern this offseason, on top of just getting as talented as possible.
Absolutely. And that's why, I mean, I don't know what Dame would think of this, but I'd rather just run it back with our draft pick or both draft picks than trade players for a Cat. Like, I don't know. I just don't think it would make sense.
Yeah. Cat doesn't seem like a Dame type of guy.
Yeah. Well,
like, I haven't heard anything about Dame being cool with Cat.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is the thing. I mean, who right now in the playoffs is considered pretty much the top playoff riser in the NBA? You know what I'm talking about?
I mean, Booker's been insane.
I mean, Booker's been awesome, yes, but he's really good. But I'm talking about Jimmy Butler, like how, yeah. So Jimmy Butler, he when you have a guy like that who questions someone's work ethic and love of the game and whether they're a winning player or not, I think you got to listen to him. And I know it's been several years, but we need players with Jimmy's mindset, not players that Jimmy says don't have his mindset. So I'm not saying we can get Jimmy. He's probably going to be untouchable or whatever, but we need the players who are those type of players that rise up in those moments in the playoffs, who are going to work their butt off all season to make sure they're in the position to be able to rise once they get in the playoffs. And I don't want to trade for anyone who's the opposite of that. And it's kind of like we've been talking about. We trade for all these projects. We're hoping they just magically improve or get better or something. And that's even with stars. I still feel like there's certain players, and I put Cat in that category, that it's just like you're if you trade for him, you're expecting him to be different than he has been, or magically show some sort of passion and ability to win that I don't think he's shown yet. And I'd shy away from any of those type of players.
Oh, absolutely. And you know who a good comparison is? I mean, it's not a direct comparison, but a player that could fit under that category that you described would be Ben Simmons, who Blazer fans were clamoring for.
Right.
And here's the thing. At least Ben Simmons could play good defense at the time. When Blazer fans wanted him, it was because of what he could do defensively. Like, it made more sense than Cat, right? But me and you, we're sitting here questioning his mindset. And a ton of people, even within our own community, heavily disagreed with that. And they just looked at what he could do on the floor, like defensive end, but then also, like they were under the notion like, oh, well, Dame could fix him, which we say way too much. If Dame could fix everyone, guess what? We wouldn't have been as bad as we were the last 2 years. You know what I mean? Like Dame's only human. He can't work miracles. He can't just like instill a brand new mindset. He can't install a brand new mindset in Ben Simmons, okay? Or in Karl Anthony Towns or whatever. So every time I hear, you talked about how you hated the whole script thing and that makes you cringe. Well, something that makes me cringe is hearing Dame can fix him. Because, like, who has Dame ever, like, taken and mentally fixed to the point where they've become a good NBA player?
Well, I think there's players that, like, Cat would thrive, I think, like, catch and shoot threes and stuff based off of Dame's gravity and ability to get to the paint and stuff. So I think it'd be fine. But, like, certain players, I don't think they necessarily can't play good or don't become good players with Dame. But
that's more so like on the court, like their games complement each other offensively, so like they can play off each other and help each other out on the court. That's different than like Dame can fix his mentality.
I just think at this point, if we're gonna make a big all-in trade, it has to be for someone who we know can help Dame when it matters most. And I just would, and that was my thing with Ben. It was like, even if he plays well the entire season, let's say we traded CJ for him before that season even started where he sat out, like he could have played incredible the entire season, but in the back of my mind, I'd still be like, okay, bright lights of the second round in the playoffs or whatever, like what's going to happen if he's back in that same situation? Fourth quarter, he gets the ball and is wide open under the hoop and has someone like Trae Young coming at him and he passes out of that. Like, what's going to happen in the playoffs? Like, will he revert back to it? Because it's, even if you do fix someone, it's hard to know if you can truly fix them until that situation comes up again.
Yeah, and for an example, this past offseason, in last year's playoffs, there was all the turmoil surrounding DeAndre Ayton. And he didn't want to be there in Phoenix, right? But then, like, this year, okay, he was fine. It might have been a little bit of a down year, at least efficiency-wise. His true shooting percentage was much lower than the past couple of years at 61.7%. Still fine for a big, but the past couple of years it was 65, 66%, right? So a little bit of a down year, but he was still fine during the regular season. But he has fallen apart in the playoffs. If Devin Booker wasn't playing like Michael freaking Jordan, then it would be, oh my goodness, DeAndre Ayton has completely sold for the Suns because he's their third best player. And it's not like they have a ton of depth. I know last game, like, Shamet went off and they got bench pieces that can occasionally do something, right? Like, they're NBA players. At some point, they'll have a good game, right? That was game 4. But Booker's been absolutely insane. They've the last couple of games that they've won in Phoenix, it wasn't completely comfortable. And that was with Booker going off. Okay, now you could say KD could shoot better, whatever. But Ayton, in this series, Eric, 10 points per game in 29 minutes. He got benched in crunch time for Jock Landale. Okay? He's being paid a max contract. He's averaging 10 points, 8 rebounds. Shooting 58% from the field. And 40% from the free throw line in this series. He's 2 for 5 from the free throw line, 19 for 33 from the field. Like, you can find 40 big men that can do that. And if you've seen some of the clips, his body language is terrible. He's pouting when Jock Landale gets into the game. Like, he ignores Chris Paul, who's trying to motivate him and give him a high five. Like, his aura and his attitude is terrible. And then he has these plays where, like, he's right next to the rim, and with his athleticism, should be easy dunks for him. And he's going up scared. Just like Ben Simmons did against Trae Young a couple of playoffs ago for the Sixers, right? I've never wanted players like that. And people say, oh, well, you like Nurkic, like blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't think Nurkic is as soft as any of these guys, man. I think Nurkic makes an effort to try and take the ball to the rim. He's just not the most athletic guy. So sometimes that's hard. I'd rather have that than a guy who's athletic as hell but settles for these like 6 to 12 foot push/float shots or mid-range shots and isn't super efficient at them because he is scared to take the ball to the rim. That's what DeAndre Ayton's been. And it's in the playoffs, it's manifested itself. For Ben Simmons in the playoffs, it manifested itself into bigger issues. So if you're talking about like trying to make a playoff run, you got to have guys with the mentality to rise in those moments like a Jimmy Butler. Not like a Ben Simmons or a DeAndre Ayton or a Karl-Anthony Towns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm wondering. I think a lot depends on if they win. Because if they win in spite of him, I could see them maybe just running it back next year. But you got to think once that year's up with Indiana, do they revisit some sort of Miles Turner and someone else for Ayton type move? If I'm the Suns, I would do that like immediately.
I mean, here's the thing: if you're gonna be a center that's soft, at least just like shoot threes. Then at least just shoot three. Like Nurkic started to shoot threes this year. Shot 36%. So like, all right, he's not the most dominant interior big man. Okay, well, stretch it out then. Be a finesse big man that shoots threes then. Like one or the other. So yeah, I don't see Indiana. I don't know. Like I think Indiana. Why would any team want him on a max after what he's done in the playoffs this year?
I don't know. Why did they want him last year on a max?
It's confusing to me. I don't get it.
But so Raiden in chat says, "Give me Jalen. He got that dog in him." And actually, like as much as I wasn't super high on Jalen Brown, I'm starting to really like that possibility because, he doesn't like really melt away in the playoffs. He actually performs. The Celtics, play well in the playoffs. They have for several years. Yeah. So
he's proven he can be the number 2 on a team that almost won the championship.
And if he wants to be here too, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that is my most realistic, like, dream, I feel like, at this point. We can talk about Joel Embiid and Giannis, all we want, but if the Sixers win the series, then, that's kind of what I'm rooting for at this point. Is that what you're rooting for?
Yeah, absolutely, because I still, one, I don't think there's a huge chance of Embiid ever leaving Philly or leaving this summer at least, even if things kind of melt down. But 2, I almost don't want to give up now what it would cost to get Embiid, just with like knowing he's got a meniscus issue now. He's been relatively injury prone throughout his career, so it's like, oh man, like because like if we get the number one or number two pick, and then we're giving up like Sharp and Ant on top of that for Embiid. I'd much rather give up maybe slightly less for Jalen Brown and keep one of those guys. But I mean, I'm not saying I don't like Embiid. I think him and Dame would be awesome. I think I'd much rather have the possibility of getting Brown than Embiid, because I don't know if that's even going to happen.
Yeah, and there's always these people out there. We start talking about these guys, and there's always these people with absolutely no knowledge of like situations within the league. Okay, and I'm not saying me or you have all this knowledge inside the league, but it's always these people that say Brown is not going to come to Portland. That's never going to happen. And they speak in such absolutes as if, they know for sure that would never happen. Okay? It's all the same people that it was like Pistons fans last year with Jeremy Grant. You remember the Pistons fans that would say, they're not trading Grant for anything less than the 7th overall pick. There was even some Pistons fans that said, they're not going to trade Grant to Portland. There were some Pistons fans that said, Grant doesn't want to come to Portland. And you came out in April, 2 months before that trade, saying Grant wants to play with Dame. It's going to happen. And it could take less than people expect. And then that's exactly what happened. So does it frustrate you to read these comments, man? Because it frustrates me to see all these people say, it's never going to happen, because there's no way they can be sure.
I mean, people say it's never going to happen because they're most likely right, because, even if there's like a 40% chance, they still have a 60% chance of being right. So, yeah, I mean, Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to, if you say it's probably not going to happen, okay.
Yeah.
I'd probably agree with you,
yeah.
But it's just the people that are so 100% it's not ever going to happen when they don't know for sure, man. Go ahead.
Well, it's just there's a couple things at play. One, Brown would have to leave a championship level team, which I understand why people don't understand why he would want out of that situation. And two, like people have brought up in chat, if the all NBA teams I think are announced on Thursday this week, Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
So if he makes one of those, which he probably will, but I don't know if he will or not, but he can make a supermax, then he would qualify for a supermax, so that he'd be giving up a lot of money, whether he leaves Boston for any team, not just the Blazers. So I don't know if that's the case. But I said this about Jeremy Grant last summer. There are certain players that aren't necessarily motivated number one on their priority list by money. And Jalen Brown is absolutely one of those players. Now, of course, if it's like $100 million difference, that's really hard to turn down. But if he's not happy there, and he feels some sort of slight against Boston and some of the fans, or doesn't feel like being in that situation anymore, I do think he is the type of person who would possibly turn down money to go into a situation where he wants to be in, instead of staying there for more money. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see if that's true or not. I don't know. I mean, we don't know yet. They're still playing, so it's not like last offseason at this time where Jeremy Grant was already here working out with Dame and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not quite that guaranteed or locked, whatever with the info. But yeah, so we'll see. I don't know. It's still a lot to be determined, because they could still easily win this series, and they'd have to be pretty much the favorites to win it all if they get out of this one.
Yep. A lot of things have to go right in any of these situations for trading for any star. A lot of things have to go right. I mean, I've preached it numerous times, and I cannot continue to preach it enough. No individual situation is even remotely likely. If you're the Blazers, you're banking on having enough options that could potentially play out that one of them will.
Mm-hmm.
Because 1 out of 10 is more likely than 1 out of 1.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, though, is a bunch of things have to go right, but that doesn't mean that there's a 0% chance. Okay? So, especially with the Jalen Brown situation where there's already talk about how he's unhappy in Boston. There's whispers about that. Boston might lose in the second round. He has a year left on his deal. Boston supposedly tried to trade him for Kevin Durant last offseason after they beat the Nets. And then Jalen Brown has a problem with the fans. Like, there's already some stuff there that should get it to the point where it's like, okay, you can't rule anything out. Now, I still think in the long run, he ends up back in Boston. I mean, I tend to default to that with stars is like,
right.
At this point, they tend to stay where they're at. But there's already some stuff there. It's not like nothing's happened. It's not like there's no whispers of anything.
Yeah.
So that's my whole thing is you can't rule it out.
And if he goes to Boston and let's say Boston does offer him that Supermax and he makes all NBA and stuff and he turns it down, or doesn't, or says he'll think about it or something, like Boston might be in a position where even though they want to keep him, they have to trade him because they're offer, and this might come into play with Giannis too. Now Giannis is a little different because his situation is he still has 2 years, I believe, on his contract, so his extension can actually be greater next year if he waits a year, but if Jalen Brown can sign that extension and he doesn't or balks at it, then there definitely could be a situation where not only does he force Boston to have to trade him instead of losing him for nothing, but also he could do what Grant did last summer and tell teams that he doesn't want to go to that he is not signing there long term. So you can trade for me, but I'm gone in a year. And so we'll see if he does that. Like you said, it's hard to imagine someone turning down that money if he makes the All-NBA team. But there's some people that don't really factor that into the equation, and I think he's one of them.
Yep, and I really like the idea of Dame, Sharp, Brown, Grant, and then whoever the center is. Maybe it's still Nurkic. Here's the thing with Anfernee Simons, man. Like, Celtics fans will scoff at him. But there's a tweet today that I found very interesting, okay? And this was not from a Blazer fan. It said, in over 1,800 possessions without Dame, Simons puts up 28.4 points per 75 possessions on an above-average true shooting percentage, and 5.6 assists per 75 possessions. And then they provided a list of guys who this season put up 25 and 5 on average or better true shooting percentage per 75 possessions. And it was all like all-stars in Jalen Brunson. And like, it was Kyrie, Jokic, Fox, Ingram, Butler, Beal, Paul George, Zion Williamson, De'Aaron Fox, LeBron James, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. Like, that's the name of guys. Damian Lillard, of course, SGA, Luka, Giannis, right? That's like the name of guys that put up those numbers. Right now, it's not a super large sample size, and teams, if Simons is the lead guard, will game plan for him harder, and it'll be tougher for him to put up those numbers as the lead guard. But basically, when Simons is the lead guard, he plays like an all-star. He looks like an all-star. He's also 23 years old. He's also on a contract only paying him $25 million a year over the next 3 seasons. This was because it was a 4-year extension, right? This was the first year of his 4-year extension.
Yeah.
So, under contract for 3 seasons, 23 years old, as the lead guard, plays at an all-star level, and it's backed up statistically, and people act like he has no value. And I don't understand it at all. Like,
well, I think it's just the Dame and CJ thing. Now they think he has to be traded, so then it's, I don't know.
I mean, like, I think if this whole wild hypothetical of Jalen Brown went down and Simons got traded there, I think Simons would be an all-star next year.
Maybe they'd have to clear up some other room for him because they'd have a lot of guards. So maybe they make some other moves to clear space, or maybe he goes to a different team. But I saw a reply to tweet. The inspiration for the tweet was, I guess, a Nets fan that is screaming from the mountaintops that not to trade for Dame to get Anfernee Simons instead because he's much cheaper in their mind, obviously, than getting Dame, and he's like going to bust and be break out and be a star soon. It stemmed from someone saying that the Nets should pursue a Blazers guard, but not Dame.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's just funny to see like Jordan Poole playing as bad as he has, because that's the guy who gets compared to Ant a lot. Like, Ant he got a little bit of heat for being a little inconsistent, but he's not Jordan Poole inconsistent, and he's not as out of control as Jordan Poole. Like, even as a number 2, number 3, whatever, I think he can play that role better than Jordan Poole can. Like, Jordan Poole has to play like he's a star and has to play like 35 minutes a game in order to consistently be productive, right? Ant is one of the deadliest shooters in the league. High volume, difficult 3-point shots, still shoots an above average percentage on them. Like, can do it off the dribble, off the catch.
And the shooting was a little down this year. What happens if it goes back to normal next year, you know?
Yeah, like he is one of the best shooters in the league and has developed some off the dribble game and is still 23 years old. Like, I think if he gets traded this offseason, I think Anfernee Simons will make an all-star game before his career is done.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if he didn't. I think he'll have a season where he averages like 25-5, 25-4, and make an all-star game. And people, like, how highly regarded Zach LaVine became in the past couple of years. And, like, I think he ends up at least at that, in that regard, Shoot, if he becomes a league guard somewhere, I think there's a chance he could have a better season next year than Zach LaVine.
Mm-hmm.
So, it just baffles me how much Ant is slept on by the NBA.
There was another tweet. This is like 3-5 days ago. It was along those lines. It wasn't quite those same stats, or it wasn't with him as a lead guard. But yeah, it was all the same. Like, everyone on the list was an all-star this season except for Jalen Brunson, who was snubbed as an all-star. And it's just like, well, offensively, that's pretty much like all these things are bearing out that he might be an all-star level player offensively. Now, the question is, can you get to respectable on defense? And digging into it a little more, someone posted the synergy stats for him, which point him, that's synergy is something that like the NBA scouts and stuff look at, and he's actually painted as an above average defender on those. There's a stat that Reese brought up today, and that's this season, the Blazers had a 4-point better defensive rating with Anfernee Simons on the floor than him off the floor this year. So it's not nothing, but it's also not. I mean, he still needs to improve on that end, but he's not the like terrible defender that everyone thinks he is.
Yeah, and before people say, "Oh, you say never use defensive rating for players," there's a difference between on-off defensive rating and the comparison with and without Anfernee Simons versus just looking at Anfernee Simons' defensive rating and saying he's bad because it's a high defensive rating.
And I'm not saying it means that he's a good or bad defender. I'm just saying there's a point where if things keep telling you that he's a decent defender, like maybe he's a little overlooked or underrated in that.
Yeah. And at the very least, he's a 20-point per game scorer already. Like, in 23. And on a pretty solid contract. That could be a steal if he truly can play at this level as a lead guard. So, it's just funny at the way people scoff at like an Ant and Sharp package, because if I'm rebuilding, those are the and I needed a backcourt for the future. That's what I'd be looking at. I think Ant defensively, like if you played him next to Marcus Smart, if he got traded for Boston, I think Ant would be just fine. Just fine. If he had another good defender in the backcourt next to him, and especially a defender that can guard twos, which Dame is a little bit undersized. Like, Dame has his moments where he plays big, especially low post for some reason, but like, I think Ant's defense will look solid if he gets to play next to like a Marcus Smart. Like, I think he'll just be just fine, especially when a lot of lead guard star players aren't good defenders. They're not, you know. Dame, Steph, like, Steph improved, but would you say he's good? I don't know. I wouldn't say he's good. I'd say he's average. But Steph, Dame, Luka, even down to Bradley Beal, James Harden became average. I still wouldn't say James Harden's good, right? Devin Booker has his moments. I wouldn't say Devin Booker's good. Zach LaVine's not a good defender. Like, a lot of these lead guards aren't good defenders anyway. So if you're talking about Ant, like, he just need to come in and put up those numbers that he does without Dame.
Yeah, Booker's been pretty good on defense this year. But this is where it comes. So people like Rip City are saying, are the Celtics still trying to contend if they actually did trade Brown for Simons? Well, that's where the part comes in where Tori was talking about earlier, where if there's a bunch of options in terms of stars available or big time players available, then it becomes not only do the Blazers have a lot of options, but if a team doesn't like want Simons, or they already have a bunch of guards or players in his position and don't see that vision that Tori's talking about, then maybe there's another player from a team like the Nets that the Celtics would rather have, and maybe they get that deal done that way. So yeah, there's just lots of possibilities. You know, like I think we talked about this a week ago, or like Siakam going to Boston and Anfernee and picks or whatever going to Toronto, or just something like that. But the more players that become available, or like I've never heard Lauri Markkanen being available, but like the example you brought up earlier, maybe the Celtics like Lauri Markkanen, and you can get Jalen Brown that way. So the more options that the Blazers have, just in terms, not only just in terms of trades for them, but it also opens up 3-team possibilities.
Yep. And then I'm gonna read one more comment before we catch up on donos. Thank you to those of you who donoed. Aeromancer says, I disagree, Tori. He will get hunted on switches. Bro, any 6'3", 6'4" guard that gets switched onto front court players is going to get hunted. Unless it's like Lou Dort, like a freaking football player. So I don't really see that as something you should make a critique of Ant, because that's common for any 6'3", 6'4" guard.
Yeah, Ant was, I mean, quietly, I think one of the things that's really important is screen navigation. And outside of maybe the 12 games or whatever Gary Payton played, I'd say Ant was probably our best screen navigator this year. And that's really important. But yeah, I mean, LeBron hunted Curry on switches tonight, like Ernesto says in chat. And that happens, but you just have to scheme it in a way where you have a Draymond or a Looney or Wiggins to help on those situations as well. They did try to, in the Miami game before that, they had Josh Hart on Butler, and they tried to hunt certain mismatches to get Hart off of Butler, and they did a really nice job of Hartenstein hedging and recovering and allowing Hart to get back in front of Jimmy a lot of times. They threw double teams at him, which you have to double team a lot of players too. Which is, it's funny because Blazer fans don't realize that a lot because we've been this defense that doesn't double team very often for the last 12 years now. So like it's been funny, but there are different things you can do on defense to make sure teams don't hunt certain players.
Yep. Shout out to ads, $5 dono. Says, my bad if you guys already addressed this. Does it seem more likely for Boston to try to move Brogdon before Brown? I mean, Brown's situation is independent of Brogdon. Whether or not Brown got moved would be entirely dependent upon Brown's situation playing out a specific way. So it wouldn't be Boston trying to reshuffle the deck. I think if Brown wants to stay there, Boston wants to keep him. If that makes sense. So thank you, ads. Good to see you, man, with a $5 dono. Braden Tennis, $2 dono, says, good idea to try a sign and trade with Grant. Thank you for the $2 dono, Braden. I mean, Grant has to want to sign somewhere first, and then we have to pursue a sign and trade with that team. We can't just say, Jeremy, we know you're a free agent, but guess what? You're signing with the Raptors because we're getting Siakam. So you're signing in Toronto. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't. Grant is a free agent. He has his own authority in where he signs and where he goes. So it's not just like, oh, we're just going to sign and trade this guy here. So it's not really an idea at all.
Yeah.
And then shout out to Colonel Pancakes, $5 donor, says, I'd be cool with trading for Draymond. It makes Dame happy and fixes a lot of issues on defense. Do you think Draymond is worth the drama? I mean, I think we need a guy with some edge that can light a fire under these dudes consistently, and maybe that could be Draymond. The thing is, Draymond is respected, so people will say, oh, Dylan Brooks can light a fire. Nobody respects Dylan Brooks. Like, nobody, I don't think anybody wants to play with Dylan
comments
Brooks.
This playoffs.
Yeah, so, there's a difference, right, between that type of crazy and Draymond crazy. Like, Draymond's actually respected. Dame loves him. So, I think it'd be worth the drama. I don't think the drama, it can boil over the top and be too much at times, but in the long run, I think you just take the good with the bad. But it's just trading for him is going to be very difficult to make happen. I don't think Draymond is any more likely than like a Jalen Brown.
Mm. And I know, although Dame does want both of them.
Yeah.
Hyperprime says, do we know who's representing the Trailblazers at the draft lottery? Yes, Douglas Fur is going. No, just kidding. No, we don't know yet.
We should start a petition to send Douglas Fur to the draft lottery.
Elizabeth Allen says, if he wants the 5th year, though, speaking of the Jeremy Grant sign and trade, that rule has not been in the CBA for about 5 years now. You do not get the extra year in a sign and trade. You can only sign for whatever the other team can sign you for. So you no longer, that was taken out at the previous CBA, where you can, you used to be able to sign someone to that extra year and the full amount on the team they're currently with and then sign and trade them. Now you can only sign and trade them for whatever that team can offer them. So no, they wouldn't be waiting to sign and trade him so he could get that extra year.
Yep. Anyway, what target do you guys want us to talk about next? Do you want us to talk about draft or whatever? Rip City, yes, we know. I like the way you put that. Let's see here. Tier 2 trade targets. I'll have a video on that in the coming days, but we can talk about it now. I mean, you guys come up with names. There's a bunch of you. There's only 2 of us. Realistic center options if Cronin decides we're done with Nurk. Drew Eubanks is probably the most realistic.
Yeah.
If Cronin decides we're done with Nurkic, like, I fully expect him to just start Drew Eubanks and me to hate my life.
Yeah. I still think Daniel Gafford would be a cheap replacement, but if that's after June 30th, then it becomes a lot more difficult. Nate J. Dub Trey Lyles isn't really a center. Yeah, we might be looking at Mason Plumlee.
That's legitimately who I was just thinking of.
There's not a lot of good free agent centers.
There's not
that you would feel comfortable starting. There are some guys, including in the draft, like a Derek Lively, or later in the draft a Deron Holmes, that maybe you feel comfortable about down the road, or as a backup center, but free agency centers are not good.
Yeah, like, why would Cronin just decide he's done with Nurk just to start a rookie center?
Mm-hmm.
That isn't Wembanyama. Aeromancer, please tell me you're trolling. Um, yeah, like I don't know. I mean, there's like guys where like if a team blows it up out of nowhere, it could be available. That would make sense. You know, like say the Clippers blow it up out of nowhere, and we don't get Kawhi or Paul George, or even if we do get Kawhi and Paul George, like a Zubac, right? But like that is so far out there. But that's the thing. There's 30 teams. Who knows? Like, what's the chances that one team will surprise us in terms of just kind of like reshuffling, just like the Jazz did last year, right? Although some people maybe saw the Jazz thing coming, regardless, like it wasn't a situation where they had to, they just decided to. Danny Ainge came in, right, and they were like, okay, we're not gonna win a championship with this core, let's just blow it up. So, you know, what team is that? Who's their center? I don't know. But as it stands now, there isn't really like anybody obvious outside of like a buy low guy and hope he pans out. But that's the problem, is we've gone with that strategy too much.
Aeromancer, why did you just tag me without saying anything? Mark Williams isn't. I don't see why the Hornets move on from him.
Yeah.
Mo Wagner is not better than Nurkic. Alex Len isn't better than Nurkic. So we're like, those are severe downgrades.
Yeah, like, why are we doing that? You know,
just to move on from Nurk because he sucks. Right? That's like,
yeah.
Like, we're not just moving on from him to sign someone like that. It's only if we have a capable replacement.
Here's the thing, though. I think, like, near the end of next season, if we did something like that, like, people would finally realize what Nurk brought to the table in full, you know? If we had Mo Wagner. But then again, we saw a lot of Drew Eubanks minutes and people thought he was better, so maybe I'm giving this fan base a little too much credit. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Clint Capella, I mean, that's maybe one guy, Eric, is Clint Capella. If they decide we want to go with a Kongwu and...
Or, like, they like Nurk or something, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, why would they trade Capella for Nurk? That makes no sense. Like,
yeah.
Is Capella, like... Capella's not really an upgrade.
We're not doing that, Aeromancer. But once again, we don't have like a contract to match his outside Nurk, so we're not trading like Simons or Sharp for him.
Yeah. Blazer fan says, I wish we could have seen more of the lineup that beat Utah before the tank mode. Nurk, Dame, Sharp, Watford, and Thibault. I mean, they won a game, but we all know what all those guys can do and can't do. That's not a team that's going to be in the play-in, even if that's the starting lineup next year.
Yeah, we're talking about realistic centers. That's why I didn't mention Claxton like I normally do.
Yeah, I do see other fans on like Fanspo and Real GM that have listed his trade value as like 2 first-round picks, and it's like I would give up Nurk and 2 firsts for Claxton in a heartbeat.
Well, if you get Claxton and like Royce, because those 2 combined make about what Nurk makes. So yeah, I'd give up 2 first shot. Yeah,
I do it in a heartbeat. So I don't think Brooklyn does.
Mm-hmm. Because Royce would maybe start at the 3, and then you'd have that point of attack defender. I mean, I wouldn't give up like if we got a top 5 pick for it, but
yeah. What stat was Royce O'Neal really bad at that I saw lately? It was like
It was 2 point. Like he basically took no 2-point shots, and he was like the worst player at finishing at the rim this year, I think.
I thought it was something defensively, but
he doesn't shoot at the rim, so
he's legitimately PJ Tucker. Smaller PJ Tucker. He doesn't make layups and he doesn't shoot at the rim. But against us, he has game-winning tip-ins.
Aeromancer, they're not trading for McHale and Dorian Finney-Smith just to make Nick Richards the starting center. Like, Nick Richards could be a sleeper, he could be a good backup or whatever, but no playoff team is going to make Nick Richards their starting center moving forward. Like, the Blazers just will not do that this summer. That's not even on their radar as something they'd even think about doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be the equivalent of making Drew Eubanks the starting center. I mean, but then again, I don't know. Never put it past Cronin, but if you're trading a bunch of assets to try and contend, you don't then say, okay, well, Nick Richards, he's going to be our center.
Yeah.
Like, and if Cronin does that out of the blue, then, I mean, we overestimated Cronin somehow. I didn't know that was possible, but like, well, Nick Richards could, in an optimistic scenario, he's a good backup center next year.
What we're talking about with Cat and Dame being like, I don't know if that's our big move, if Dame's happy with that, right? Like, yeah. Just think, if we made a bunch of moves, but we have no big depth, and Nick Richards is our starting center. Like, there's no way the Blazers or Dame would think that's a good move.
Yeah. I'm disappointed in you, Aeromancer. I mean, I was a guy who liked Nick Richards in the draft.
I mean, he's fine. Like, it's nothing against him. Yeah.
But if you're talking about trying to contend,
right,
you shouldn't be using the words Nick Richards starter.
Mm-hmm.
Should be Nick Richards backup. But that's the problem. It's like, all these people want to get rid of Nurk, but it's like their only solution is like Miles Turner, who can't rebound.
Mm-hmm.
Next to Jeremy Grant, who can't rebound. All of a sudden, like, if you get Miles Turner, our defense is a little bit better. Our rebounding's a bit worse. Is our team any better? People will say yes because they think Nurk sucks. But you're going to have to give up assets, too. So, like, what's the point? What's the point? It doesn't really make sense. So you're going to give assets, and you're not going to end up making the combination of rebounding and defense better if you trade for Nurkic for Miles Turner.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not filling the fifth starter spot because you're just replacing Nurkic with Turner. So anything that doesn't make the combination of rebounding and defense better and doesn't fill that fifth starter spot, I am not on board with at all. If it takes extra assets on top of, like, flipping Nurk. You know, if we could flip Nurk straight up for Miles Turner, okay, well, there's problems, but, like, okay, sure, whatever. We're not giving up assets, like, whatever. We're still at square one. We just have a different center.
Mm-hmm.
Chad Coe says Mitchell Robinson. He's always hurt. He's more hurt than Nurkic is. No, go ahead. You were going to say something.
I mean, he's a decent rebounder. He's a good defender. I think he chases blocks a little bit. Definitely, I don't know. I don't think we're better with Mitchell Robinson than Nurk. I just don't think it's that big of an upgrade, or even an upgrade over Nurk. Like, I think it's pretty close. I think the problem is, whether we have Mitchell Robinson or Nurk or whoever it is, we need a second center that can do the things the starting center can't. If as Nurk, we need a rim running, athletic center. Like, just switching those guys for each other doesn't really solve a lot of problems. I think we'd still need a backup center that's capable, because, like, with the Knicks, Hartenstein plays a ton and fills that role. So, like, you have both of them together, and that helps them both be good. But if you switch, or if you take one of those guys away and only have one of them, then I just don't think it works as well, and those guys get kind of exposed.
Yeah, I did exaggerate his injuries a little bit, but played 31 games 3 seasons ago, played 72 games 2 seasons ago. Last year played 59. So But
And
like
he's like nothing on offense too. Like he doesn't do anything other than he can score around the basket. That's it.
See, that's the thing is people underrate Nurkic's shooting development this season. People underrate Nurkic's short roll playmaking and passing ability. Like, those are valuable traits to have in the offense. And screens. Like if you're getting a Claxton who's just like, you could make the case he's a top 5 defender last year.
Yeah.
Maybe even top 3. Like, sure, okay, then I'm willing to give that up because it's for such a good defensive player. But for Mitchell Robinson, just not really a fan.
Well, Claxton, see, the difference is Claxton is probably the second or third best like center at switching and being able to stay on guards and not having that be a problem. So that's just an element that can transfer defenses from like middle to bottom to like elite if used correctly. So it's just a whole new dynamic defensively that we've never seen here in Portland. But yeah, just outside of that, I don't like just swapping out one center for another.
And I will say this, Nurkic offensively does a pretty good job of making small ball lineups pay for being a small ball lineup. He struggles finishing against length plus athleticism. But against small ball lineups, he has feasted for the most part.
And if you have a good solid backup that's maybe close, like I keep bringing up Daniel Gafford. Let's just say we had him as a backup. Like that also helps you maybe not have to play your starter as much, whether that's Mitchell Robinson or Nurk or whoever. Like so those guys get less wear and tear throughout the season, and maybe they're better towards the end of the season and into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think every contending team needs a good backup center because here's the thing, Nurkic gets a lot of heat for being injury prone, but almost every center ends up having injury issues at some point or another because they're 7-footers, right? They're big men. Like, good luck finding a consistently healthy 7-footer year in, year out. Like, sometimes bigs will have a healthy season. Like
Jokic is pretty...
Jokic is like the exception.
But he's also not super athletic. So.
Yeah, slow as molasses, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like all these people want like a super athletic big man, but then they want that super athletic big man to never get hurt. Guess what? That super athletic big man's going to get hurt. I mean, Embiid missed the first playoff game around 2, but he basically falls on the floor to avoid injuries. That's why he's always on the floor, also flopping, but... he legitimately will fall in situations where it's like, why didn't you just catch yourself to avoid injuries? Like, a lot of big men are injury prone. A lot of big men miss portions of seasons. Nurkic maybe is a little bit more injury prone than average, but it's not as drastic as people act like if you just compare him to other centers. But the thing is like people compare him to other players in general where it's like bigs are going to be more injury prone than guards.
Yeah, well, I think too it's a little exaggerated because the team asked him to sit out longer than he needed to be the last 2 years too. So
yeah. I mean, the only serious injury he's had is that broken leg against Brooklyn, which was just fluky. Back in 2019, he's been banged up like he's had a strain here or whatever. But every big tends to deal with that. Gotta love the comment. Capella's not an upgrade over Nurk. Somehow the Bosnian Beagle has never won a playoff series or outplayed his opponent, and he's mentally weak. There we go, Eric. We got one.
Kat says the one time the Zers had a good backup big, we went to the Western Conference Finals with Cantor. And we also had Collins, too. So we had actually 3 players that could play center. So...
yeah, what sucks about that year is Nurkic was playing the best basketball of his career before that injury, too. Like, I hate when people try and discredit him, like, he's never won a playoff series, because if he was healthy, they beat OKC. And I think they beat Denver. If anything, they have an easier time with Denver. You're telling me, even with as much as you hate Yusuf Nurkic, you'd rather go into, just for all you Nurk haters, even with how much you hate Yusuf Nurkic, you'd want to go up against Nikola Jokic with Enes Kanter instead of Yusuf Nurkic? Enes Kanter. An injured Enes Kanter at that. A fasting Enes Kanter. Like, we win that series with Nurk too. Kanter did almost nothing in that second round series, if I recall correctly. Like, he was okay, but he wasn't the reason we won that second round series. So why are we going to discredit Nurk? Because the thing is the problems with this team haven't been due to Nurk. So.
What's up, Arshad?
What's up, Arshad? That's a name I haven't seen in chat in a while. Good to see you, Arshad. But, yeah, I mean, sure, it's a fact he's never won in the playoffs, but it's been more circumstance than anything. Pasty's excess Nurk haters never had an original thought in their life. Reese says, I would like a better defensive center, but the options are limited, so I understand keeping him. Yeah, I mean, if it's an upgrade that makes sense, sure.
But that's why I want him to keep a pick and draft a defensive center and groom that guy to be that, you know?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I fully expect Nurkic, not fully, but I do expect Nurkic back in a Blazer uniform next year. I do expect this to be another running theme next year.
Yeah, no, it's just tough because if they make a big trade, they almost have to trade him. But
yeah,
see.
I mean, hopefully with Drew. I mean, the thing, if Drew Eubanks starts after we make a big splash, that's just terrible. Like, that's the thing, is I'm not sitting here like, oh, Nurk has to be the center next year. It's just this team has problems that he doesn't hurt. These two biggest problems are defense, in terms of, like, giving up shots at the rim because we let people drive past all our perimeter defenders. Our perimeter defenders don't get through screens well and don't contain dribble penetration. That's not Nurkic's fault. And our second biggest weakness is rebounding. Nurkic is like the only one who you could say is a positive rebounder at his position on this team. So our two biggest issues he's not a problem with. Like, you gotta address those problems. So people want to make it all out like every problem on this team is due to Nurk, and that's fine. They need their scapegoat, but I think it's pretty clear, like, this team is lacking much more in other areas.
It's just, I'm sorry, but I have a problem with people with this kind of stupid discourse. The Blazers, outside of the Pelican series, you can say they lost, right? Outside of that, though, they have not been favored in any series with Yusuf Nurkic. So it's not like, and then we talk all the time about Dame hasn't had help. He doesn't have another star around him. And then we blame these role players who aren't stars because they couldn't help Dame win a freaking playoff series. Like, come on, people. Like we were not supposed to win any of these series, including the OKC series with Kanter. And like, this is not a case of, I just think people like blame the wrong people. It's the GM's fault for not putting enough talent to win playoff series, not the players who can't get it done because they're not, like, take, for example, the frickin' 2017 Blazers in the first round where we got swept in the first season when Golden State had KD and they had Clay and Dre and Steph all healthy for that series. And we get swept. Nurk was hurt, of course. but he plays one game, and I'd like to look up his plus minus in that game because I think it was double digits, and yeah, it's just like we don't have a good enough team like to blame any one person for our losing in the playoffs. Like it's just not good enough.
Yep. Yep. Anyway, I'm looking forward to another year of discourse because it's probably what it's going to be. I mean, otherwise, if it's not Yusuf Nurkic, I expect it to be Drew Eubanks next year. Definitive one, don't listen to anything you said. Anyway. Please give us good questions so we can stop arguing about Nurkic, chat. Shout out to Andy Marchant, $2 Australian dono. Says, what rating out of 10 would you give a Wemby/Green offseason? So Wemby plus Draymond? I mean, it depends on what we give up, but any offseason with Wemby is like a 10. is basically a 10.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd like to see what we gave up in that trade first before. That's why I mean, you might not have been here for the beginning, but it's just kind of. I'd like people who say when we are trying to evaluate Draymond being a Blazer, what we actually had to give up for him, because I don't think a lot of things make sense in that regard.
Yep. A Green and Wemby front court, though, would be absolutely amazing defensively. And offensively would be intriguing, too. Adam Smith says, or go ahead.
I was just saying, I think Green is one player, if you had him, that you could play Wemby at center next to. I mean, it wouldn't really matter who was the center or whatever, but I think he is one player that you could get away with Wemby being a center. Otherwise, I think Wemby is probably better off power forward the first couple of years.
Yeah. What happens with Grant? If we get Green, I mean, Grant probably plays the 3, which I'm not thrilled about, but
at least they have Dre and Nurk, apparently, or whoever your center is, you know.
Rahi says, absolute dream scenario, but if we win the lotto and get Wemby, Celtics get bounced, what would your package for Jalen Brown be, because you're not giving up Wemby in that situation? I mean, the dream scenario would be Jalen Brown demands out, doesn't want to stay in Boston, wants to play with Dame and Jalen Brown, and then Wemby would only help that. You know, like, I could see players wanting to play with Wemby too. And Portland is one of the couple of teams on his list, and Portland swings like Ant and 3 future firsts for him, which might be, for a dream scenario, might be a little bit too much. Maybe it's 2 future firsts. Regardless, it's just Ant plus future firsts. You could trade 23 to Chicago for our first back from them and trade 4 future firsts, 2024, 2026, 2028, 2030, or instead trading the 2024 first, you could just trade the 23rd pick instead. Either way, you could trade 4 firsts with Ant without trading the lottery pick. So if you could have a lineup of Dame, Sharp, Brown, Grant, Wemby, Nurk, I don't know
6.
which one you bring off the bench. Yeah, who do you bring off the bench there? I mean, that would probably be the
Sharp, probably.
Sharp probably. Yeah, I agree. Sharp's your 6th man. You're not putting too much pressure on him right away. You're starting Brown at the 2. You're starting Jeremy Grant at the 3. You're starting Wemby at the 4. You're starting Nurkic at the 5. That's a ton of size. And a ton of switchability.
All right.
I would love that lineup.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
I know what everyone in chat's answer is. We get the number 1 pick. We get Wemby. The Celtics, whether it's to them or another team, but we can get Jalen Brown for Ant and Sharp. No other picks. Um, and so we get Wemby and Jalen Brown, and all we had to give up this summer was Sharp and Ant, and we keep all our future picks and 23 or whatever, and we still have those available to go after someone else maybe.
Should I do it? Would you do it, Eric?
I don't know. That's tough.
I'm gonna do a chat poll.
I don't know if I like Jalen Brown that much, especially with this contract situation, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, you'd have to assume he'd want to come here in said scenario and would.
Well, that's when you do because then you trade Nurk and 2 future firsts or whatever for Claxton and Royce O'Neal, and then you'd have Dame, Brown, Grant, Wemby, Claxton as your starting 5 with Royce O'Neal off the bench.
Ability, oh my god! Like, I'd probably have to do it. I mean, if you get Wemby and you're keeping future first, like, I think a lineup with Dame, Jalen Brown, Jeremy Grant, Wemby, and then whoever the center is, just as long as it's like an okay starting center, like Nurkic level or better, I think contends. Obviously, you need a bench around that, but I mean, you have the right combination of offense and defense. And people will say, "Oh, don't trade away the future." I mean, Jalen Brown's still barely 26 years old.
You'd have Wemby.
And you'd have Wemby.
And all your future first. Yeah. Could still draft some at 23.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, when Dame retires in 5 or 6 years or whatever, you're hoping that Wemby at that point is the best player in the world, and Jalen Brown is still, at 31, 32 years of age, still good enough to be the number 2 on a championship team. And guess what? You're still contending, probably. Now, you need the right role players, obviously, around that, but you'd have years to figure that out and develop those guys. And then push comes to shove 6 years down the line. Maybe it's much like the Bucks were with, like, Giannis and Chris Middleton. Instead, it's Wemby and Jalen Brown, and you just need to find that Drew Holiday, right? Like, you have a future. So, I'm very split. Like, I don't blame people for saying yes. I don't blame people for saying no.
Yeah.
I am completely on the fence. Today, I have to say yes. Tomorrow, I might say no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also agree with what Chris Brandlin says. Our current team plus Wemby contends, and Sharp in that window is an all-star. Yeah, it's definitely possible, but I mean, Brown is for sure an all-star. Like,
yeah, and he's
it's tough.
A solid defensive player. Like, if how likely do you guys think it is that Sharp ends up becoming a 27-point per game scorer with solid defense? It's certainly possible, but how likely is it? It's probably more likely he doesn't quite get to that point, right? I don't know, I don't know. If we're saying it's likely he becomes a 27-point per game scorer with solid defense, I feel like that might be a little too optimistic. Shout out to Jason Lee, $2 Dono, says, honeymoons are short and fans are impatient. Yeah. They're impatient, but they want to rebuild, but also, I don't know. I feel like if we went the rebuild route that a lot of people seem to want to go, they would get impatient with that after a season or two. They would fall out of love with basketball and stop yelling about it all the time until we got good again. Then they'd find a way to come back and say we need to rebuild again. Shout out Connor Etzler, $5 donut, says, what are your guys' thoughts on Sharp not making the all-rookie teams?
Don't like it.
Who'd you think he deserved it over? I know we voted for this, but I forget.
Well, I thought the first team was right. The second team, I think Jaden Ivey deserved to be on it. I think Jabari Smith I know a lot of people said he didn't, but I thought he deserved to be on it still. He played really well on the second half of the season. So yeah, I don't know. Tari Eason was good, but I don't think he was better than Sharp this year. So I think it should have been over him. And Sohan didn't play a lot of the second half of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, he was okay. Duran averaged like what 9 and 9 or something like that. It's not like he was great or anything. I think Sharp averaged more points than both Sohan and Duran, despite not playing much until the end of the season. So yeah.
Brad Blackburn says, you guys just do Blazers. We want to do more NBA stuff. It's just obviously very time consuming, but we do have an NBA channel. There's a link in the description if you want to check that out. And we also do draft and free agency and trade deadline live streams where we cover the entire league.
But yeah, I think he should have been over. I don't know. Because the argument was that Sharp only put up stats on a tanking team, but Houston was terrible all season. They were tanking the entire season. So
yeah. If Sharp ended up in Houston or whatever, or like a team without winning aspirations the first half of the season, he would be on an all-rookie team.
And this not a knock on Tari. I think he's a really good player and had a good season as a rookie. But yeah.
Like, I think Sharp had a case over Tari and Sohan, but I don't think either of those guys are so egregious for me to care about it, you know. Especially when we're talking about like all rookie second team, like I don't really care. Cuz nothing was blasphemous. It wasn't as blasphemous as him not getting invited to the Rising Stars thing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
62 to 37%. That poll ended at interesting.
Yeah.
Heavily in favor of no.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, let me do this poll. Because this is going to be fascinating to follow up these results with this new poll I'm going to do. Go ahead.
Reese says there's 4 guys above the pecking order in Houston. So, what does that mean? So, Tari Eason was the 5th best player on Houston. He deserves Rookie of the Year. I don't know. I don't understand what you're saying.
Would a starting lineup of Lillard, Brown, Grant, Wemby, and Nurkic contend next year is the question I'm asking, Eric.
I think it would. What do you think?
I think it would. Chat also heavily agrees with us. So this is the part where I'm confused by chat, Eric. Because if we would contend next year and still have a future of contention, why would we say no to contending to keep Sharp and Ant instead of trading them for Jalen Brown? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Life Guy says Ant and 3 future firsts over Sharp and Ant, but that wasn't the question. What if Boston said they'd only do it if it's Ant, Sharp, and nothing else?
Yeah, it's not, oh, we'd say no to the initial trade because you shouldn't have to give up Sharp or whatever. Like, it's a thought experiment. Like, do you guys think we are going to contend with Sharp and Ant and Wemby next year? Because I mean, that's pretty much the only way you could say otherwise. But I'm not as confident as contending next year, so that's kind of where I'm at, you know.
Definitive one, we were literally the 3 seed twice and the 6 seed 2 seasons ago. Like, you're just wrong, man. Like, you're just now trying to. I feel like you're trolling on purpose, man.
So, do that poll, in my opinion. Arshad says, okay. So what? Sharp and Ant starting? Is that the poll I should do, Eric?
No, that's with those six. Ant would start at the 2, and then Wimby at the 4, and Sharp would be the 6 man, I guess.
And who would be the starting 3?
Grant.
Oh yeah, duh. Okay.
We still have it.
Yeah.
Assuming.
I.
So you're moving the goalpost, dude. Just stop, man. That's stupid. So annoying.
Yeah. So 75% of people have voted yes. 71.
I don't know for contenders next year. I think definitely
Down the line
in 2 or
yes.
3 years for sure. But I don't. But then you also have to worry about Dame getting older and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. I would lean more towards no. I think we're a playoff team, but I don't think we're contenders. Like, I don't see us making like a deep run with that core. I mean, in order to contend next year, you'd have to have like the most optimistic version of Wemby next year is like a top 30 player, right?
Yeah, you need a big jump from Sharp. You need Ant to
And you
figure
need a
out
jump
some
from
of
Sharp.
some of his struggles. You need Grant to be a little better defensively and a better rebounder. But I think it could be. But yeah.
Yeah. Like I am super bullish on Wemby defensively, right? Like
Yeah.
I think he could be all defensive first team
And
as
health,
a
right?
rookie. But at the same time, relying on a rookie to come in and fix one of the worst defenses in the league in order to contend is maybe a bit optimistic.
If we have Kings level health this year, then maybe.
Yeah.
They had hardly any games missed to injury.
Yeah, but they didn't contend. They didn't make it out.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, if you have a really good team with health too, like that helps. But
Yeah. But like I never really looked at the Kings as contenders. And part of it was because they were healthy. Like if they had similar injury luck to other teams, you're talking about them being a 6-7 seed.
but if we're sitting here next year, because the Kings, they got off to a little bit of a slow start. I think they've lost their first 3 games, but they, for the large chunk of the season, they were in that battle for the 2nd and 3rd seed, right? Like if Portland next season is battling all year for the 2nd and 3rd seed, there's no way we're thinking we don't have a chance at contending this year, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it kind of the Kings just got slighted because they've been out of the playoffs for so long. No, and everyone thought it was a cute story, but not many people outside of maybe Zach thought they were gonna like be a contender this year. But yeah, I think if like Dame is on a team with a bunch of veterans, and you have these young guys like playing at a high level, I think people will think they could have a chance if they were like a 2 or 3 seed.
Yep. And then no offense to Blazer fan, but your comment makes no sense because he says, with Jalen Brown and no Simons, a Lillard injury ends the season. Well, without doing that trade, a Lillard injury ends the season. Like, I don't really get what you mean. Your season ends either way if Lillard gets hurt.
Yeah. Do you want to read Murray's donation? Was that the next one?
Yeah, $2 Australian dono from Murray. He says, Dame, Ant, Grant, Wemby, Sharp, and Nurk equals a ring. I mean, I hope so.
Definitive one. asks, why are you offended by an opinion observation? You think we are a contender? I think we were not. Nothing personal. Damn. Dude, you frickin' said the only thing we're contending for is a play-in spot. I mentioned that several NERC teams have been non-play-in teams that they've had seeds higher than a play-in spot. That's all I said. And then you changed the goalpost completely to say that I said that we are contenders and you don't think they're contenders. It's a completely different conversation, my dude. You are being purposely annoying, and I can't stand it, man. Like, please just take a step back, or like I just don't want to read your messages anymore if you're going to be like this, like, because there's no reason to do that kind of crap. I mean, you're just being disingenuous with your arguments, dude. It's stupid.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said. 69% say that Core 6 would contend. So if we take a look at the polls, 13% or more people think that we would contend with doing the Ant and Sharp for Brown trade. And also, like, contend is just kind of like a buzzword and ambiguous. Like, I have more confidence in that team next year. More confidence. In long term, I still think we can be, if Wemby pans out, I still think we can be one of the best teams in the league. Now, you could say if Ant and Sharp and Wemby all pan out to the fullest possible extent, we could be a dynasty or something, right? But, I mean, that's going to be dependent upon Wemby panning out anyway. Because, like, Ant and Sharp are really, really good young pieces. But there are other teams with some really, really good young pieces as well. So, you know, it's going to be dependent upon Wemby being that difference maker, which he absolutely should be. But that's why I'd have to consider Sharp and Simons for Brown if we got Wemby. I think that would maximize Dame's window. But ultimately, you know, if that was on the table, hypothetically, I think you'd let Dame make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's certain hypotheticals and certain scenarios where it's like, I'm so on the fence about him, and if I was GM, I'd be so on the fence about him that I would just like leave it up to Dame. Yeah. Where it's like, either way, like there's pros and cons of going either one of these routes. So, you know, if it comes to that, and it's truly just kind of like a 50-50, like, let Dame make the decision then.
And here's the other thing that bugs me, okay? The Blazers, we know, did not have a perfect roster, right, this year. So, like, Josh Hart was maybe not the best fit starting forward with our starting lineup. And you know, we had some injuries in the season. Trade deadline's a mess. We had no backup depth. We had no one over 6'9" other than Nurkic in the rotation. Okay? But let's not forget, February 9th, trade deadline day. Okay? Trade deadline, February 9th. So only, what? I think we played 55 games or something. So there's only, 25 to 27. I forget what the exact numbers are, right? Blazers are, on that date, how many games out of the fourth seed do you think, Tori?
They were close because it was bunched up all year long.
Yep. They were 2.5 games out of the fourth seed. 2.5 games at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it. I mean, like, we're talking about, like, oh, they're a play-in team, and no matter what they do, as long as Nurkic is in there, I mean, they were not that far away from being considered a decent team, and they had no bench, no shooting. yeah. So like, yeah. And I agree, Mac Mole. I hated that all season that we were only that far out. But this team definitely did not go for it. It was a case where they tried to give up on the season. But this team was not that far out of. It's not that far away from figuring it out. And it like that's why I go back to what I said earlier, to where it's not a situation where um it's like the Blazers can't just make a couple good moves and find their way back into being up there with teams like the Kings and the Clippers, who always seem to struggle now, and like that. Like I don't understand why people think it's like this foregone conclusion that it can't be that.
Yep. Context is important with sports. And that context is important in regards to this team. They just had very clear-cut flaws, which is, I mean, it just goes back to they need to address those flaws if they want to be better. Very, very simple, actually. Colonel Pancakes, $5 donut, says, that core makes us contend because this team competed most of the year and we tanked. We lost a lot of close games and blew a lot of leads. Yeah, that kind of goes hand in hand with what Eric said. I mean, it could. It could. You know, Brown is a more sure all-star. Like, he's proven he could be the number 2 player on a championship team. There was a comment earlier from the dude that keeps spamming our Discord, making burner after burner after
Prison
burner.
Mike's back, let's go.
Bro, can you just stop spamming the Discord, dude? It takes 5 seconds to ban you. It's pointless. It probably takes you much more time to spam us on a new account. Like,
no,
why?
he has that copy and paste thing he does with everyone.
Just what's the point, bro? Like, but there's a comment earlier that made absolutely no sense. Says Sharp, Simons, and Wemby has a higher ceiling than Dame, Wemby, and Brown. Okay, so Wemby is the same guy. So Sharp and Simons have a higher ceiling than a top 10 player, top 75 player of all time, and a 27 point per game scorer. I mean, I like Sharp. What is Sharp going to be, like the best player in the league, and Simons is going to be a 30 point per game scorer? Like, how do they have a higher ceiling than Dame and Brown? I mean, you could maybe say it's comparable, but guess what? Damian Lillard and Jalen Brown have a much higher floor than Shaedon Sharp and Anfernee Simons. Much higher floor. Because what combined, they averaged like 60 points per game last year. Like, Dame's a top 10 player, Brown's arguably a top 15 player. You can make the case Brown has been the best player in the playoffs for the Celtics. So that's why you would make that trade, is because it's a team that is a safer bet to contend. Like, that team, I have full confidence that team would contend if you had Damian Lillard, Jalen Brown, Wembanyama, whoever the center is, and Jeremy Grant. Full confidence.
Yeah. I see, this is where, like, if you want to have an opinion, like, I would never say you're wrong or whatever, because this is the kind of conversation that is a good basketball discussion, that it's fine to have an opinion either way. It's the times when you say, like, unfactual things and try to present them as facts and stuff like that get to me. But in this particular argument, if you believe in Anfernee and Sharp, like, I have no problem with that. That's totally fine. If you think Jalen Brown is one of the best players in the NBA and you want him instead of those two, I get that too. Like, we talked about this earlier, but I'm completely torn, dude. I don't know. Like, I'm not the biggest Jalen Brown fan, but if he wanted to be here, was willing to sign an extension, and that gives you that good of a team, like it is pretty crazy, like, how good that team could be if they make some other good moves to fill out the bench, which I think they could if they had that kind of roster. But I also understand that people are super high on young players, especially one like Sharp that's shown flashes. Not only that, but he's a super exciting player to watch. Always does crazy stuff, has cool dunks and all that. So it's fun to have him on the team as well. So I get it both ways, and I'm probably the biggest Anfernee Simons fan here. So it's going to be hard if we trade him this summer for me personally. But like I can definitely see the vision of why they would make that trade if they made it. But I also understand why people would hate it.
Yeah. Guess what? Sometimes it's okay not to have a strong-headed opinion. You can have an opinion without it being strong-headed. Like, I understand why people wouldn't do that trade. I understand why people would do that trade. I also understand that I'm going to now ban this guy because of that comment.
Yeah, no other GM would give him a max. Yeah, that's true, man.
But he'll be in our Discord tagging us soon, Eric, with the same post because
Prison Mike 14.
He has nothing better to do, I guess. I don't know. I don't understand it, but all right, man. Anyway, I think you hate Dame a little too much because it seems personal, but whatever. Anyway, but that's the thing is like everybody that wants to trade Dame is just super, like, aggressive about it. Super aggressive about it. And that's the part that gets me. Shout out Murray, $2 Australian dono says Prison Mike.
I know, it's gone.
Yeah, so anyway, now he's gone. But thank you, Murray, for the $2 Australian dono. Thank you, Mike, for helping us get a $2 Australian dono. Appreciate it.
Hey, here's something I agree with Definitive One on. A factor we drafted Ant and Shade is a factor too. A lot of fans like homegrown guys. If we drafted Brown, I wouldn't want him traded too. So yeah, it is a little bit of, there are guys, but yeah, I always go back to my team growing up was, the 80s teams, and almost all of those guys were guys we drafted, like Drexler, Porter, Kersey, Duckworth, those kind of things. Or maybe not Duckworth, but the first three. And then Cliff Robinson, we draft him, and he comes in as our sixth man for a couple of years. And then we make some other moves along the way where, you add a Buck Williams, but it's not like you're trading like one of your core pieces for him, like this trade would be. So, but then like you get to the point of the like 99-2000 team where we basically tried to buy a championship and trade for Pippen and Steve Smith and Schrempf and stuff. And like, I of course rooted for that team. I was a diehard Blazer fan still, but it wouldn't have meant the same to me as if like Dame wins a ring here, or if that late 80s, early 90s team won a ring or whatever. Like I do agree that sometimes when it's your guys that you drafted and watch grow up and become champions, it's a little bit cooler. But it would still be cool in this situation because you'd still have Dame that you grew.
Yeah, and I try and like that's absolutely true, and I try not to get too caught up in that thinking. Mm-hmm. Like last offseason, people were super high on Anfernee Simons, and I was high on Ant. I just thought it might take him a little time to figure out how to adjust to being the starter next to Dame and then coming back in with the bench unit and the difference in mentality that goes with that shift and, that sort of thing. But people were also super high on Nasir Little. and I was the one sitting here saying, I need to see it. I need to see it consistently. And I thought it, honestly, at the time, I thought it was a case of like, oh, this was the guy we drafted. I have a soft spot for Nasir Little because we drafted him the first stream we ever did together, right? Like, I want Nasir Little to pan out. I like him as a dude. As a player, he could be a ton of fun if he panned out and ended up just finding consistency and being consistently healthy and expanding upon the flashes he's shown in multiple areas, like, he could be a ton of fun. So I desperately want him to pan out as a Portland Trailblazer in a Blazer uniform. But, you know, at the same time, it's I can't get too caught up in that in terms of trying to analyze him, in terms of trying to, you know, talk the truth about his game, you know? So I generally try and be aware of that so I don't get caught up in it, because it absolutely is a thing.
Yeah. Well, a little part of that too is just the Blazers' history, both of drafting the wrong player or having a draft pick not pan out, where someone drafted directly after that is one of the best players ever, or in one case, the best player ever, you know, my opinion. But those kind of things. And then on top of that, you have trades throughout their history where, you know, you give up on a Jermaine O'Neal for a okay veteran, and Jermaine goes on to be good. And then I was just researching this for our next episode of Rip City Retro is going to be about the Drexler trade and how, if there's any parallels of that compared to like the Dame situation right now, being our franchise player and all that kind of stuff. So I was just remembering about how the Blazers traded Drazen Petrovic back in, I believe it was like 92, 93 or something. And, or maybe it was 91. But anyways, you know, he goes on and averages like 20 plus points a game the next season for the Nets and looks like an absolute star. Unfortunately, dies in a car accident after his second year with the Nets. But like, just those kind of things haunt a lot of fans. So it's like, I think that's the scary part of it, is if you trade Ant and Sharp and Ant becomes that player we talked about at the beginning of the show where he's averaging, you know, 27 and 5, and then Sharp becomes like a near 30 point per game scorer and is electrifying too on top of it. So yeah, it's I think that's the concern there, is doing that. Yeah. But if the Blazers are also really good, like, both teams could have a win-win scenario.
Yeah.
It's possible, yeah.
You can't be scared. You can't be scared of, like, what if our guy, after we trade him, pans out and it looks bad? Like, you can't be scared. Now, there's reasons why you wouldn't trade said player for just anything, obviously. Right, but it's like, if you get a roster that you are confident will contend, you should not be scared of what those guys pan out to be elsewhere. Because the end goal is to win a championship. Mm-hmm. That's the end goal. So if you are getting yourself close to that goal and making it possible for you to achieve that goal, then that's what it should be about. It shouldn't be about, oh, well, it might look bad because this guy might become a superstar and then, you know, dang, we could have done better if we had him. Like, it's all about just trying to get to that goal winning championship. So that's why it's like, if it's for a trade that makes us a contender, I'm absolutely willing to consider it. Especially if it's like, okay, well, Sharp's putting up, if Sharp becomes a top 5, 6, 7 player or whatever, well, guess what? Wemby's the best player in the world then. You know what I mean? Like, Wemby's a top 5 player. And it's like, dang, I wish we had both of them, but I don't know. Maybe you have a ring with Dame and then you're still contending. Like, that's fine. That's fine. So that's the thing. You can get caught up in what ifs and be scared to pull the trigger on a trade that would help us contend. But that's the thing, is like, isn't that what people got mad at Olshey about? He wouldn't pull the trigger and take a risk to contend. I mean, most moves that would hypothetically get this Blazer team to contention is going to be some sort of risk. Mm. Unless we're extremely lucky and find a way to get there without taking a risk. But
like a safe risk like Giannis.
Yeah. So that's the problem. But I mean, some fans wouldn't even trade Sharp for Giannis. It's like, we should not be worried like, oh, what if Sharp becomes better than Giannis is right now? I don't understand that. Anyway.
Mac Mall says I'm only trading Sharp for Giannis, and that's perfectly okay too.
Yeah, I understand that. If you get to the point where you wouldn't trade Sharp for Giannis, then that's where I start to not understand.
Well, there are those people.
I know, yeah. Those people I don't understand. If you're willing to only trade Sharp for Giannis, then I can kind of understand that. If you're only willing to trade Sharp for Embiid and Giannis, then I absolutely understand that.
Mm.
But that's the thing is with Sharp, it's just like, if he becomes this, if. What if he doesn't? And then what if we were saying, oh, I wish we traded him when he looked like he had all this potential because he ended up being like a 17, 18 point per game scorer, but still was a subpar offensive player. And became like a fringe all-star at best. That's certainly possible too. But nobody ever like considers that what if. And it's like, oh, you could have traded him for a dude that was averaging 27 points per game and was 26 years old and a solid defensive player. What about that what if? Oh, we missed out on that because we were worried about, oh, what if this guy became great instead of worried about the guy that was already great, you know? So that's the thing is there's two different sides of the coin there in terms of thinking about this.
There's also, like, if we were back in 1997, I think it was, after Kobe's first year, and we're talking about the Lakers have a chance to get, I don't know who at the time, I don't know who the example is, but they're like, oh, we could trade this person for Kobe, and like, because we don't know if Kobe's ever going to be good or whatever. Like it's always both sides, but the chances are it's much more likely for any player to just be like all-star level instead of like generational.
Yeah. I mean, remember Linsanity? Knicks fans are probably going through the same thing, and then they didn't even keep him. And then what did he wasn't the star that he looked like during Linsanity. And that's basically kind of what Sharp had. He had a Linsanity run at the end of the season. Now, he had a higher sample of him being a role player before that, but obviously with Lin, he was much older and Sharp's 19. Like, I'm not trying to compare the two. Mm-hmm. It's just, if Sharp did what he did to end the season the entire year last year, then maybe I'd be on board with, like, I wouldn't trade him for Embiid, and it would be hard to trade him for Giannis. If he had shown at 19 years of age for a full entire season against teams that were, like, hardcore game planning for him, against really good defenses in a situation where he was trying to win, and he put up those numbers that he did to the end of the year, then sure. But yeah, I mean, there was a comment that put it right. Sharp could be, it's an unknown. Sharp could be the greatest of all time. It's like having a scratch lotto ticket that could yield $1 billion or $1. Yeah, I mean, it's who knows, man? Who knows with Sharp? Like, I have confidence that he'll be good at least. Like, that's kind of where his floor is at this point. His floor is much higher than I had it going into the season because I think he proved a lot this year. Ceiling, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is what's the most likely scenario in that range? I mean, but I remember it was Bailey Smith brings up Greg Brown. When Greg Brown was drafted, it was like, oh, he's a high upside guy.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has a much higher ceiling than Greg Brown.
I know. It's just funny. Because I never... Like, Greg Brown was an athletic four-man, so he had a high upside.
Did he even sign, like, a 10-day or anything with anyone?
No.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about him.
He'll probably play in Summer League.
Yeah.
See, like, if he doesn't go signed with an NBA team, I'd be down to bring him back for a G League team.
Yeah.
At least he could be in Portland in the G League instead of heading down to LA. Although maybe he would want to head down to LA if he's not on an NBA roster, I don't know. Anyway, these are the thought experiments that I want to do leading into the off season, because these are the thought experiments that we go over when we make moves. So if these long tangents, if you guys enjoy them, which seems like you do, which is awesome, I love that. But I love that you guys enjoy them. But also, I think it makes for a better chat when moves go down.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe after 8 days from now, we'll start seeing some movement when teams know what picks they have.
Yeah, I'll have draft pick trades. I'll have trade videos coming up. I dropped my top 5 trade targets. Obviously, that's top 5 trade targets, so it's going to be a bunch of guys that aren't realistic, and that's never going to happen. I'm going to have different types of trade target videos. So, under the radar trade targets, draft pick trade ideas, maybe 5 guys the Blazers shouldn't trade for. Cat, Ayton, etc. So, yes, just stay tuned with the main channel. Anything else, Eric?
Oh, man. Just seeing, I didn't even see this earlier.
What's up?
I don't even know if this is true. Oh, no, it's the real Mark Spears. Apparently, they had to evacuate the Staples Center after the building.
Yeah.
Possible active shooter or something.
Oh, really?
Hopefully that's not the case. I haven't heard anything. I assume we would have heard a lot more about it if something.
Yeah, that's strange. I'm searching on Twitter.
Aeromancer sent us a Nick Richards trade.
Oh, great. Where'd he send that?
To GC.
Oh. He loves himself some Nick Richards. By the way, does anybody need a gift idea for Mother's Day? Let me know. 5 minutes of life advice, okay? And we will give you advice on a gift to get for Mother's Day, okay? Because I got you covered. Eric Olson says, yes, please. Yes, says Raiden. Okay, I'm going to segue this into a hashtag ad. Let me actually grab it. So, our newest sponsor, which is just a real cool company because they're sponsoring a bunch of creators, and it's Manta Sleep Mask. I've thrown this ad up on a few videos. You probably thought of it. Connor says I knew it. Connor knows me too well. But
it was pretty obvious if you knew already, Connor, which you did.
Yeah, what better gift to get your mother than the gift of a good night's sleep? Which you can get her with Manta Sleep Mask. They have a bunch of different kinds. So if your mom likes to listen to rain to fall asleep, you can get the sound mask. There's different kinds on the website for you to check out. And if you use the promo code UPRISE, you'll receive a 10% discount. It'll help out me. It'll help out this awesome company that makes good products. I actually use this thing. It's comfortable.
Put it on.
I'll put it on right now.
Nice.
I need to just have this at the ready so that when chat starts saying things I don't like, I can just put this on and relax and like not see it, you know. So the hair is crazy right now. I got a comment a couple days ago saying, Tori, get a haircut. I still don't understand why grown men worry about my hair, but yeah, it's comfortable, fits well, adjustable strap, soft, breathable. So if you need a Mother's Day gift for your mom, get her the gift of good sleep.
You look like a superhero, man.
Yeah, I'm Manta Man. Yeah, I mean, I feel like any mom would love that her son is thinking about her health, her sleep. So it's a great gift to get. Link in the description box below. Hopefully that'll help you out. Anyway. Is it comfortable? I need one of those. Yes, it is comfortable. It is comfortable. They're made well, man. Like, your eyes aren't up against anything. It blocks out all light. In case you can't tell by the cave, I like sleeping in complete darkness. So, You know, if you're sleeping in somewhere that's light, maybe a plane, it's perfect.
Or like my wife, who now sleeps during the day a lot.
Aeromancer, I can get you a Blazers Uprise branded something else. You know, like the merch store I used to look at. I need to set up a new merch store, a new merch provider. But they had like shower curtains you could customize. So if you want a Blazers Uprise shower curtain, just let me know. I'll hook you up for being a mod and buying one. I'll hook you up with something.
Aeromancer definitely needs a shower curtain.
I want to get the sound one because I need to meditate more, and it just seems like it'd be absolutely perfect for that, to block out the light and meditate with the sound. So that's probably the next one I'm gonna get. Blazers Uprise bed sheets, Blazers Uprise doormat. There was a ton of stuff. It was hilarious.
We're on the Blazers Uprise bed tonight.
Eric, we could put your Money Man Brant face on stuff.
That'd be scary.
If I was ever a millionaire where I could just afford to spend just money on pointless stuff, that would be an awesome prank. Just put like, because there was like dog food dishes, shower curtains, waste baskets, like literally everything, like dinnerware placemats. I think you could even put stuff on plates, like sneakers. You could literally put your face on everything in the house as an April Fool's joke. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I need to get something to surprise you for the background with your face on it, the Money Man Brant face.
Dro needs some help.
What does Dro need help with?
Uprising, if you know what I mean.
Blazers Uprise branded Viagra. It's a red pill, it's not blue.
I don't know if seeing or thinking about us right before you're doing that is the most helpful thing. Maybe it is for you, Dro, I guess.
What if we uprised on the Money Man Brant bed sheets?
Oh man,
I'm gonna start referring it to the. I'm gonna start using that word in that context, Aeromancer. Let's uprise. Wink.
Blazer fan, you don't have morning uprise already?
Jesus. And this is the content
right,
you guys
Andy?
stick around for. Brady says, yes, let's do Tankathon, please. We already did. Here, I'll do it again, though. I'll do it again. It'll be quick. Will Brady get his Tankathon success? Yes or no? Is Brady good luck? Nope. OKC's in the top 4. Oh, Orlando moved down 4 spots.
What?
We're already screwed.
Are we 9?
We got 9.
No, what
Brady
the heck?
Moat, you are bad luck, man.
Oh. We got that 0.6% chance?
That's insane. So you got Utah, Indiana, Washington, and OKC in the top 4.
And Dallas loses their
and Dallas loses their pick. This is the most wild sim we've had. Oh my goodness. Indiana, Utah, Washington. OKC gets the number 1 pick. Washington gets number 2. Utah gets number 3. Indiana gets number 4. Well,
what is this disaster?
the good vibes are gone. Because what the hell am I looking at? Dude,
I bet this has like a 0.1% chance of happening.
Yeah, we rolled the straight blank earlier. There was no uprising on the first Tankathon sim. It was straight chalk. What is happening? Tankathon's drunk. Imagine, we get with the 10th pick. No, with the 12th pick, the Orlando Magic. With the 11th pick, the New York Knicks. With the 10th pick, the Orlando Magic. And we just know we're screwed before our pick even comes up.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that would be heartbreaking.
But also Detroit, Houston, San Antonio, Charlotte all get screwed as well.
Yeah, for all you people who want to rebuild, you want years where this happens, where we suck all year and then get like the 7th, 8th pick when we're the worst team in the league. No, thank you. Or one of the worst teams in the league. No, thank you. Oh, that would be miserable. We'd no longer be talking about Jarris Walker, Eric. We'd be talking about Grady Dick.
Dude.
Speaking of Uprising, by the way.
I am not going to do the math on this yet, and I do not want to have a math discussion, but someone watching this needs to figure out the probability of us or you spinning a no movement draft and a one where we fall to 9th and 4 teams that low move up in the same couple sims.
Yeah, see, I feel like the no movement draft was more likely a site glitch than anything.
Yeah.
Because that's how low the odds are. But Smog is the math guy here, so... or there's somebody else that... I forget. Sorry for all the mathematicians.
Yeah, super low, I know. But
that stood up on my behalf. But I don't remember who you are. Rip. Our chance to get 9th, yes, is 0.6.
Bailey, yes, we can offer the most and an extra year to Draymond Green.
Andy, it's something like that, yeah. It's something like that. But then again, like, it's only rolling for the top. No, it's actually the chance that the number 1 team would be number 1, the number 2 team would be number 2, the number 3 team would be number 3. But you also have to eliminate the first 2 teams if you're going to calculate the odds, so it's actually like really complicated. But they only roll for the top 4. So it's just based on 1 through 4 ending up being rolled 1 through 4, essentially. Aeromancer, I don't think that's correct.
Well, let's roll with it, though.
Yeah.
Blazer fan, that's the chances we get those picks, but we're talking about everyone else as well. Not just the Blazers pick.
Yeah. Let me Google. Now ask life advice questions while I Google this, and then we're out of here. What is the odds that the NBA lottery is chalk? Yeah, I don't know.
It's all good, Brady. Ask ChatGPT. Says Blazer.
I don't trust ChatGPT at all. I mean, each team has a certain number of combinations out of 1,000, so it's like 1,001. So it's like 100 and it's like 14%. Yeah, I don't know, because you have to take away what's already been rolled, so then the odds change. Andy Marchant, that isn't correct because the odds would change, because for the second team it would be 140 out of like 841, because you take 140 off the board. So
Connor, yes, that, and then also what are the chances we rolled basically what we did 3 sims, and we rolled one where no movement and one where we felt the 9th.
Yeah.
Chad asked, do you think they'll keep the 23rd pick? I don't know. I don't think they will, but still kind of hopeful. I think there's going to be a good player there still.
Basically, okay, so my rough estimate is 0.1% chance of rolling straight chalk. That's my estimate. Like 1 in 1,000. Which we've probably already done 1,000 Tankathon sims at this point. So, anyway. If nobody needs life advice, then I guess final thoughts, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I guess go Philly. But yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting offseason.
Looking forward to it. We'll have a stream on Thursday. We'll talk about potentially teams making it to the conference finals then. We'll probably have another stream like this. And then Monday, I guess we'll maybe do a mock draft since it's the day before the draft lottery, and we'll talk about certain prospects and certain ranges and that sort of thing. I'll have a video probably tomorrow focusing on draft targets with the Knicks pick. Oh, actually, you know what? Screw it. I'll leak the graphic that I spent all day making and animating today. And then I lost the save, so I had to recreate it from scratch. So I spent all day on it. That was kind of miserable, but you know me.
And by next stream on Thursday, we should hopefully test the Wi-Fi at the location for the draft lottery. So maybe have a little more info on that. Whether
at this point, I just plan on trying to show up there, and yeah, if we can test it, we should be good. And then, yeah, thank you to BetOnline for sponsoring this stream. Use the promo code BELIEVE, BOEAV, for a 50% reward bonus. And then Manta masks as well. If you need a Mother's Day gift or a gift for yourself, you can take care of yourself too. Self-care is important too. So is taking care of your mom or your dad. Get one for Father's Day too. But link in the description box below, promo code Uprise for 10% off. Helps us out, helps out this awesome company that's very supportive of creators, and you can help out your mom or your dad or yourself. This thing's gonna take a while to donate because it's all... Hopefully it doesn't crash the stream. I guess we're ready to sign off, but 1 minute and 30 seconds from actually being in the stream. Anyway, mock off season, Eric, I guess. You just want to ask people? Did we even get any responses to that when I asked?
Embarking Box responded, but then said, "No, wait, I have that wrong. I think the later the better." But I think that was the only one who actually said anything.
Yeah. Andy Marchant is... He's in the mock off season, right? I'm blinking. Yeah. Oh, so is AJ. Andy and AJ, I feel like I confuse sometimes. They need profile pictures so I can tell them apart. I don't know why I confuse those two. They're just both good vibes, you know? And both active in our Discord. By the way, if you want to join our Discord, link in the description box below. Shout out to everyone who's active in there. AJ says, wow, Tori. Well, I won't confuse you guys after a mock off season, okay? I try my best.
Well, for some people, or I think there's like a handful of people that live internationally, either in Europe or Australia in the thing, so it's not even Mother's Day anymore for them.
Oh, well.
All right, I don't think they, or maybe it's not Mother's Day nationwide or worldwide either. I don't know if that's just an American thing or what.
Yep, there's your draft graphic, all animated and everything. It was supposed to be transparent. Hopefully it saved with transparency. I think it did. So, anyway. That is the animation and the draft graphic I got. So, I worked all day on that today.
Yeah, I just I watched I still have a bunch of games on my DVR I'm trying to get back through, and just watched a Duke game the other day, and it just reaffirmed my love for Derek Lively.
Yeah. Lively's a guy I like. I talk about him in that video. So that video will be... I have to make those for every player I talk about. That's the goal right now. So I was going to do it today. That took so long that I dropped the little, 6.5-minute video I had today to make sure I got something out today. It will be daily for the rest of the year. Even if I just have to drop a ramble video that's not super edited. There's a bunch of things to ramble about right now. So I'll make sure to do it daily. Might have a couple days with 2 a day. Or 2 videos a day. So, still trying to figure out what time I want to upload. I think evening's better than noon. So, evening Pacific time is probably when I'll aim for. And, yeah, looking forward to getting some other stuff out. Definitive one, the lottery is May 16th.
You not know when the lottery is by now.
You can check Tankathon.com for the exact countdown clock. We are 7 days, 16 hours, 27 minutes, and 17 seconds away from the draft lottery starting. Okay, so hey, just sorry I missed it when. Mock off season team selection show will be on
this Sunday.
7 p.m. unless you guys want it to be later.
Yeah. Oh, just kidding.
Still reiterating that because you two are in the mock off season, so let me know if that works for you. If it doesn't work for you, it's fine. You can just send us a list of your teams ranked 1 through 30.
And if you're
trolling about lottery day, it's all good.
If you are watching this and you don't go on Discord daily, and you're in the mock off season, you should probably get in the habit of checking it as much as possible for updates and information on the mock off season.
Yeah, we will have a bunch of information on Thursday with threads set up by then is probably the goal and how everything's going to work and all that. So stay tuned. I do think this year that our participant group is very active in the community, so I'm not too worried about that. But definitely stay in touch with the Discord. And shout out to those of you who are active in our Discord. Thank you for making that a community as well. Appreciate it. Sorry I'm not more active. I want to be. I will be in the mock off season. That'll probably get me in the habit of being on there a little bit more. So we appreciate you guys that are active in that Discord.
Well, you're on there all the time.
I know. I'm in VC a lot with Connor and Smog and Brady, but yeah, we have a little secret VC, a little private VC. I need to hop in the main VC more. So you guys can say what's up if you want to. Anyway, check out the links in the description for NBA Uprise, for Manta Sleep Mask, for the Discord if you want to join. And with that being said, that's all I got. Is that all you got?
Yeah.
Then we're out of here.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
We'll catch you Thursday. Videos coming between now and then. Hopefully you enjoy them. So until we catch you next, as always, peace out.